Our journey through the western part of the United States comes to an end tonight for the AWSCO Windows Cup Series because we're in Texas. And unfortunately, we have no catchphrases for Texas because all of them have been trademarked by their universities. But regardless of that, it's the HEB 500 from the Texas Motor Speedway, and it's the AWSCO Windows Cup Series back at it again. Hello and welcome to the pre-race studio. My name is Eddie Debs. I'm joined alongside Rashi Mahendra again. And I think the first thing we have to talk about, because it's certainly something that affected at least me heading into the studio, is how messed up the weather is for today. I know we had somewhere around 18-mile-per-hour winds for the Continental race, but here in the Cup Series, it's more like 23, according to our stats guy, and it's also about 90 degrees. So I guess my first question, at least, for me, that's a problem because I sweat easily and I'm also skinny, so I would fly away in these winds. It was really tough getting to the studio today. But how do you think this is gonna affect people, Rasha? Because this is definitely a situation weather-wise, unlike I think what a lot of these drivers have seen so far this season.
Yeah, it's nice to be here. Fortunately for all of us, Eddie has been anchored to the studio until a further notice. So it
Yep.
doesn't blow away into the wind and fall into the track as debris.
Yeah, that's just what I
But
get for being
yeah,
100 pounds.
but yeah. Though it's been a very windy weekend here at Texas, and usually when we talk about we talk about high wind at a race weekend. We usually correlate that with higher degrees of on track incidents. Um, if you recall the Cup Series race at Calder Park, where we had high wind speeds as well, and there were a string of restart incidents at that track, given how tight the margins were going into turn one at that track. We didn't see as much of that in the Continental race. We had some incidents, including some absolutely bizarre ones. I think we had one at the very start of the race, but at the same time, it wasn't anything that was beyond the ordinary. I think for a what I expect out of a race at Texas. It was the usual pinches on the exit of corners. You'll notice that the turns in this track are quite wide, but the front stretch and the back stretch are rather narrow, considering uh, how relatively wide the turns are. So it does kind of create a pinching effect. If you run high in the corners, you're likely going to be crowded out of the racetrack on exit, and sometimes that does lead to incidents, especially at the very start of the race, where cars are starting off double wide, already. So you get a lot of three wide, even four wide situations in the turns, and a lot of times that doesn't end very well.
I don't think it would be a surprise to any AWSCO watcher that a crash would happen in the first couple laps of a race, but I would assume with this weather, probably higher chances. I'd agree with what you say there. But let's go back to last week, where Arinia Tosima wins at Phoenix. First race win for Evans Ross Racing. Currently puts Tosima ninth place in the standings. Um, Evans Ross, of course, and I get this wrong immediately because Mauricia Vebels won at Las Vegas. But regardless of that, Evans Ross Racing a really good start to the season. They have three drivers currently in the playoffs as of right now. I guess my question to you, Rosh, is: do you think this will last?
I mean, I think Evans Ross Racing have definitely shown the pace in these races. They've been involved in some incidents, but I think the speed has generally been there, especially with I think Tosima and Tolberson, I should say. Tolberson hasn't had a win yet, but she's had good pace on top of that. So you have all three of those cars have been pretty good in terms of running in the top half of the field, and I think that's something that should keep them in contention for wins as the season goes on. So I wouldn't be entirely surprised if this goes on for the rest of the season. Although saying that, I'm not sure if Evans Rock Racing are necessarily the best team in this series. There's definitely, I think, teams that have been consistently better,
Drivers,
but
to
I
your
think it's hard to not go against a team like the 99. I'd say.
Well, we can look at those
drivers,
standings and
to
see
your
some teams that have been doing well. Mason Parker Motorsports, of course, having all four of their drivers currently in the playoffs as of right now. But at the top of the leaderboard, it's just Alinea Nighthale and Nietzsche Garnstone, neither of which have a win so far this season, and are pretty clear of the rest of the pack, including Arlen Handstrom, who's the highest driver with a win at third, tied with Janet Parkins. I guess my question here at this point for Nighthale and Garnstone, I know it's early in the season, but do you think a win in the next couple of races, despite the interval they have, which is about 20 something points ahead of the rest of the pack, do you think a win is worth pushing for at this point in the season and just in terms of where they are with this pretty sizable gap from the rest of the field heading into the next couple of races?
Absolutely. I think it'll be pretty important as the season goes on to target a win at some point in the season. Considering the playoff format that we're running here in AWSCO, it only the championship leader gets a guaranteed spot without a win. So if things stay this way and we get more winners, only one of those two can get in without a win, assuming they stay at the top of the standings. But at the same time, I wouldn't necessarily be concerned about that at the moment. It's a nice thing to have, but the way they're running, they're most likely going to win without having to make too many adjustments to their game. I think they're simply running too well to not win, at least barring any kind of freak issues, basically.
Yep, really understandable. We then look, I guess, at the playoff cutoff right now. I know it's really early. We're only, what, 9 races in? Yes, this will be the 9th race when all is said and done. But looking at that area, with Bria Delade and Angeli Rugatino, Dark Horse Racing drivers, of course, hit with the fine and the points penalty earlier, but though both of those cars have gotten to wins. Did Dark Horse get hit by the penalty? Or am I thinking of someone
It was
else?
just the 96. The 96 were the only ones was the only one hit by the penalty. But either way, I don't think they're not too, definitely the recent dip in form is definitely something to be concerned about. But at the same time, they do have that win, and with that, they have their ticket to the playoffs already. It might, so they may just be experimenting with certain strategies and setups right now just to see what can work, heading into the more for them, I think, the more crucial part of the season. So, and this is the kind of thing you can do when you're in a win and you're in system and you get a win this early. Sometimes you can kind of afford to play around a bit and see what works at your team and what doesn't work. Maybe that's what Dark Horse is doing right now. We're not entirely sure, but at the same time, it's not something to be overly concerned about yet.
I mean, you look at the playoff cutoff, and right now I'm doing the count. It looks like there's about 13 or so drivers within at least 15 points of the cut line, going from
the playoff race is very close on points right now. If it does come down to points, it's gonna be very close between I'd say basically everyone from Talberson to Rariston. That is a very tight group of drivers. It's about what? That's 22 points separating 14th to 24th. So that is, if you're in that zone, you want to be putting up consistently good numbers. The issue is pretty much everyone in that zone has been putting up consistently good numbers. You look at the drivers just below the cut line. You have Yataka with 7th and 11th place finishes. You have Huandayo with 2 top 20s and a 21st. You have Vancy with 3 top 10s on the bounce. And, above the cut line, you have a similar case with Alicia Byrne. You have 9th, 3rd, and 17th. So if you're a driver that's, starting to slide a little bit like both of the Uberman cars, I think you would have to be... There's definitely some concern to be had if you're one of the Uberman drivers, because those cars have been sliding in form recently, and given how close the margins are right now, every point counts if you're in that bubble.
I mean, you want to talk about close margins, or at least the insanity of margins. Lori Schliesenbach has the same amount of top 10s as Janet Parkins, all the way up in 3rd, and has one more top 5 than she does. But at that same time, she's only 3 points ahead of the cut line, whereas Janet Parkins is 35 points. Like, this is we're still in that, I know we're kind of still in that point where we're trying to figure out the big names and who we could assume to get in if we have, if it comes down to points. But at the same time, like you're seeing some interesting discrepancies. That Mika, you talked about Yadika. She has two top fives, three top tens, and is sitting 2 points below the cut line compared to a driver who has one top five and two top tens. It What you've said is exactly true. It's going to come down to what drivers can really be consistent, but also it's
I
going to
mean,
come
yeah,
down to if you can put yourself in a good position to win.
I mean, this is going to come down. I mean, this is going to come down to how you handle bad races, because it's just as important to make sure that the bad races aren't, as least bad as possible. And that's something that, the 8 and 92 have struggled with. Whenever they've had bad races, it's almost always been early DNFs, and that puts them well behind the field in the point standings, which is why you'll see a team like the 92 on the outside looking in right now, because for every top 5 top 10 they get a 38th 39th place finish to compensate for that, and that's just something you can't have this early on this season if you want to be up high in points. So it's going to come down to effective damage control as much as it is on making good results, I think.
That sounds fair enough. But speaking of a driver who can make, I guess, a good finish out of a bad finish, Yemfi Yanaga, who outside of Phoenix has run pretty well in all of her other races. She is starting on pole today. Is sixth in the points, so really a good chance to kind of catch towards Nihil and Garstone and go for a win. On our outside is Yappy Malikson, who is right behind her in points, only 3 points separating these two drivers.
Yeah,
And
that's two
Yappy has
drivers that have
really
been.
turned it up.
Yeah, those are two drivers that have been pretty good so far this season at getting finishes, just anywhere they can, grabbing every point they can possibly get, and that's or this early on in the season, that seems to be the name of the game. Yanaga's been an expert in that. She hasn't been the most been the most flashy. She hasn't had the most impressive runs pace wise, but at the same time, sometimes that doesn't seem to matter for her because she's always there at the end, and that's what matters when you're talking about the points battle, because they only pay points at the end of the race. So it's important that you get good finishes as much as you run well, and that's something that Yanaga and Malixon recently have been really good at. So I'm not entirely surprised to see those two in the front row. Those have been two two really good teams. Speaking of the starting grid, you look at the outside of row 3. You see Valencia Vanci, another team that's been on the up and up for the last couple of weeks. That MNC team seems to have gotten things together and are starting to make consistently good performances more of a regular thing for them. And because of that, they've moved up all the way to the to the bubble. So that's a team that I'd be looking out for.
A team I want to point out, getting both of their drivers into the Fast 10 is MBYW Motorsports. Yania Waterton starts 3rd, Mimi Barrino starts 10th. This is a team that has neither of its drivers near the bubble as of right now. And here you are, you get fast 10 laps. It means you get this shot at running up front. If we were assumed that the wreck is going to happen, that probably means they're going to probably come out unscathed, assuming it happens behind them.
I mean, the thing with MBYW
is a banner day for them.
I mean, the thing with MBYW is that they seem that even though they qualify well, they seem to always be the incident at the front that happens early on. That seems to be the issue for them, is that they've qualified rather well, basically throughout all of this season, but the results just haven't been coming in for them. I do wonder if that's just a case of bad luck. They've had some mechanical issues as well. That's been another thing that we've taken a look at this season. It's been a reoccurring theme. Lots of engine problems, a couple tire failures here and there. So being able to avoid some of those problems might be part of the issue. But at the same time, both drivers have been involved in quite a few incidents. So if they can get their cars to the finish in one piece, it would be a big boon for them, I think. The issue is they seem to not be able to do that as of late. But I think that MBYW is a team that are doing their best to punch above their weight. I think that's a team that's I've been watching closely this season, and very interested to see how they continue to develop.
Well, we're getting told that the everything is getting set up. So right before we should probably do our Kindle Fast picks. We are 334 laps away from the end of this race, but Rocky, we both got to make a choice. Who do you see winning it tonight?
I mean, if I'm going to talk about the race, I'm expecting a strategy race as the race goes on. We saw how that was a major factor in the Continental race just yesterday, and we saw how timing your pit stops can really affect how you perform with terms of tire wear over the course of a run. That's almost the deciding factor in the finish of that race. So it's going to be difficult. And this is a track where you can pretty easily make up a lot of ground on restarts. The runs tend to taper out over time. It does get a little bit hard to pass. We saw that in the Continental race. As the run goes on, late in a run, you don't see as much passing as you do early on. So it's pretty difficult, I'd say, how should I say, predict the winner for this. But I'll try my best to put in an early prediction here. I'm going to go with. Oh, hang on, I've lost my notes. Give me a second.
They're blown away in the wind again.
Ha. But yeah, I was gonna say, I'd be taking a look at some of these. I'd be taking a look at some of these drivers, maybe a little bit further back. I wouldn't doubt that someone like the 46 or 23 would be up there at the end. But at the same time, I don't think you can count out drivers like Arlen Hanstrom or Rina Tosama, who have shown to be good at tracks where long run pace and strategy matter. I mean, we just saw Tosama win at Phoenix, and that was it wasn't a similar race racing-wise, but it was a similar race in terms of how teams, I think, approach the strategy aspect of the race, and they ran really well. I also wouldn't count out anyone for the midfield, especially if you're, say, a Janet Parkins. If another team has been running consistently well over this season, and have also kind of shown that good pace over these longer runs. If you could survive the early mayhem, I think you might be looking at a winner that comes from a little bit further back in the field.
I'm gonna go with someone in the Fast 10, but because Hale's Jukovic. I always get her name wrong.
You got it,
Jukovic. I mean, starting up in 7th, someone who's already won in Daytona, but has put together some great finishes these past couple weeks. And I mean, I don't want to talk about momentum in this series. Momentum is a weird thing to talk about in NASCAR, but I think she's got the right mindset towards moving up to the front of this race. And while I don't see her dominating, I don't think anyone can really dominate here again with all the strategy that has to go into getting your car to the finish line. I think Atlantic Racing puts together good cars. I think Jukovic can pull off a good race, and I think that car can find victory lane at the end. But that's going to be it for now from the pre-race studio. We are going to head up to the booth where we are being awaited by Echo and Ladovic. Have fun on pit road, Rasha. I'm going to be, of course, strapped to this chair probably until the mid-race studio. A la vie, I don't want to become debris. Echo, do you got us?
Yeah, I hear you up here. Hey, I'm here with Ladovic here in the booth. We're here in at Texas. Hi, Lou. Hello.
Hi.
So, we saw in the Continental race yesterday, not a lot of incidents, only 2 yellows in that race, and a lot of cars ended up finishing that race. It turned into a real strategy showdown. Do you think that strategy, it's going to be the same here? It's going to be the same where, it's going to be a little more dependent on strategy, or what do you think about how this race is going to go?
It's probably going to be even more dependent on strategy. These cars are not as easy to maneuver around as the Continental cars, so overtaking is harder, usually. At least at most tracks it is. Yeah, it's probably going to be a little bit more strategic. I'm assuming that it's going to be a little bit more chaotic than the Continental race, just because the weather isn't great and the wind isn't blowing in a great direction either. So
Yeah, they're getting the wind blowing to the south, which is giving them a bit of a headwind, which is giving them a bit of a tailwind into turn 1. Let's go through the starting lineup here then, as we get set for the HEB 500. Row 1, it's Yenfi Yanaga, who's done pretty solidly up there in the points. That 46 car. She's alongside Yappy Malikson in the 23, who just came off a podium finish in Phoenix last week. Row 2, Yania Waterton is alongside Perry Alicantes, the winner at Denver. Row 3, Amani Wandayo alongside Valicia Vancy. Vancy, who's got 3 straight top 10s coming into this race. Row 4, Halis Jukovic alongside Lily Talberson. Row 5 is the 19 Arlen Hedstrom, who won at Bathurst, and the 3 of Mimi Barino. Row 6, Angeli Rugatino won at a pretty similar racing track in Calder Park alongside Amory Wesco. Row 7 is Phoenix winner Irina Tosma alongside Gianni McJasmina. Row 8 is the Tanavati Stoneman and the 98 Ava Ajarsaraj, who won at Willow Springs. Row 9, DeGabi Gabriella alongside Dira Reister. Row 10, points leader Jocelyn Nihale and the 8 of Lowry Schliesenbach. Row 11, Teresa Toleron, who comes into this race last in points alongside Cinley Rariston. Row 12 is the 26 Sophie Chantose alongside the 72 of Janet Parkings. Row 13 is the 71 Abby Little, who got a top 5 last week at Phoenix alongside Young Wei Koo. Row 14 is the 82 Pace Lanieria and the 52 of Rachel Cole. Row 15, Michele Yatica alongside Vegas winner Mauricia Vebels. Look out for her. She's run very fast at pretty much every race we've ran on a track like this. Row 16, Andrea Davison and the 31 of Taylor Happeman. Row 17 is the 55 Rhea Delade, who won in Fontana, and the 27 Nietzsche Garnston. Row 18, the 9 Carly Byrne and the 91 of Alicia Byrne. Row 19, the 34 Mika Harina and the 2 of Isa Ijavida. And in row 20, the 16 Sky and Jetta and the 42 Mika Gennaro. So, before we get started here, I mean, what are you expecting? Do you think we'll see incidents? Do you think we'll see them really run into each other? Or do you think it'll be a calm race like we've seen the past couple weeks?
probably not calm. I would assume that they would run a little bit into each other. I'll think that they'll get a little bit of a bit of a chaotic maybe first 25, 30 laps as they try to learn what the conditions really are like on the track, and once that's done, it should be relatively smooth sailing. Texas isn't a racetrack where you really should be aggressive. Being aggressive at Texas just doesn't work. You lose positions just because it's such a strategic racetrack. So I would assume that it would be a pretty calm race. Once they get it figured out, it's just really a question of surviving until they get it figured out. And it's not only you; it's the rest of the field that needs to do it. So I know that for some of them that maybe we'll get it figured out after 10 laps. It's going to be pretty frustrating, and that's when the aggressivity can set in. But usually if the spotter is good, at least it'll calm down quickly. But yes, otherwise it's going to be a pretty strategic race. I don't assume a lot of on-track overtakes, just because it's Texas and it's hard to overtake here. So yes, basically that's how it's going to end. I think.
We did see a record number of lead changes in the Continental Series race yesterday. So I think for the sake of the action, we're hoping that we'll see something similar today. But it is going to be a little bit harder to pass with the heavier winds and with the warmer temperatures. And 91 degrees was the air temp. So you can only imagine what the track temp was coming into this race. Yanaga and Malikson will lead them to the green flag here as they are getting prepared to get started here from the Texas Motor Speedway. A Toyota and a Chevrolet on the front row. We've yet to see either of those two manufacturers go to victory lane in the Windows Cup Series. Could that change today? We got 334 laps between us and the answer. Here we go. Green flag is out. We're racing in Texas. And a pretty good jump off the start for Yanniga. 46 gets the jump, but she'll have to hold on for a bit to see if she can get that lap-led bonus. Already got 1 point for winning the pole. Does look like she's gonna do it. Yanniga leads lap 1.
Calm racetrack, calm race starts. That's what everybody wants to see. And if they start forming a line here, it could get a little bit choo-choo racing for the few first laps. But then the tires were out. Should get more, I assume, a little bit more attacks. Or maybe not. Hey, maybe not. Here, that's 23 trying to gain a place. I'm not sure if, again, attacking very early on is a great idea. Especially if I'm one of those guys up front. It just puts me in a bad position with the people behind. There you go. They all figured out. So that's good to see at least. It seems like it's going to be pretty clean.
Yeah, that seems pretty clean so far. We're seeing that, you know, there's not a lot of grip in the track just because the track temp is so high because of the high air temperature, and the wind makes it a lot squirrely, especially down the front straightaway. So these drivers just kind of trying to handle their cars right now. Not trying to drive it too hard, and I think that's a good thing. But so far, early on, Yanniga has led every lap.
I'll tell you, if one of these guys, though, or these gals, girls, make a mistake, they're gonna start losing positions left and right. It might be what the 13 there has done to be in that 3 wide on the outside.
Ooh,
that's
got the wall there a little bit.
Yep, and that. If you start sliding up here, you just lose a bunch of positions, especially when the racetrack's not really perfect at the beginning of the race.
So Yanniga still leads. You know, we saw, you know, as the tires started to wear out, that holding the lead, at least in yesterday's race, was very, very much kind of dependent on aero, because that lead gave you good clean air, gave you a much better shot at trying to take the lead. Here comes Wandayo, though, looking to the inside on Yanniga for that race lead. And we may see our first lead change of the day. Yeah.
And we will. I'm pretty sure we will.
Yeah.
Unless there's something surprising. If that five car pack starts to pull ahead a little bit, it'll be a long night though. So let's hope they keep battling, because for the moment they haven't been battling too much and they're just starting to pull away. But that's basically over. So that's a good thing for us, not for them.
Yeah. I mean, 3 red racing cars all up here in this lead group. In the top, well, the 23's dropped out of the top 5, but here comes Stoneman now, as these 2 teammates fight each other. Angeli Rugatino fighting with Yanniga back here. You see Alicantes with Handstrom there. But so far, everyone's driving very calmly and very cleanly so far here in the early going at Texas, as Audie Stoneman in the 10 car now looks to try to take the race lead.
I will say what I didn't like to see there, at least last lap, when we went through the start-finish line, is some of these drivers up back trying to use as much as the track as possible. Sure, maybe you can do it when you're battling, but don't do it often, because you're gonna wreck pretty soon. Especially in tricky conditions like these, it's not something you want to do. Meanwhile, I mean, if you're up front, try not to make an overtake for the lead. I think honestly that taking the lead early on isn't good. You'll just, burn a bit more tires, a bit more fuel, and then you'll ultimately get overtaken because it's a bit of a drafting track around here. So
Yeah, the draft is pretty important here. It's not the only thing you'll see here, but we're seeing a lot of shuffling out front now. Those first few laps, the 46 was holding these cars right behind her, but now it's been a shuffle pretty much every lap. It's changed around, as the 96 now of Angeli Rugatino going to take the lead for that Dark Horse Racing team. And she'll be the first Ford out front today.
And that's interesting. We're starting to see a bit of a difference in the lines here, and that might be a sign of maybe the track isn't as bad as we might think it is. Because if it was as bad as we think it is, they just stay behind each other and we just try to have as much of the draft as possible. No, we're seeing a bit of a variations in the line, so maybe it doesn't have the same effect that we thought it would have. The high temp and the wind.
Alicantes has gotten up to second right by the 23, and she's trying to maybe close in for the lead here on Rugatino. And she does go to the inside on the 96 here. Alicantes won was second at Fontana. She won at Denver a couple weeks ago. And, Alicantes has had a great run of things so far lately. Like, that 18 car has looked very fast most weeks now. After having a pretty rough start to the season, she's looked very strong.
I like what they're doing right now. They're staying behind kind of tandem-like. I think that's the strat. I don't think they're going to hold it for a while just because of the way these cars race around here, and the fact that these drivers are quite inexperienced and don't necessarily know what's the best way of going. But, like, that kind of tandem-like thing that they had going there, if they would have held it for maybe 10, 15 laps, it would have put them at a bit of a disadvantage strategic-wise, but it would have given them great track position. So I've kind of unfortunate that that car there went for the lead. I forget which one it was.
That's McJasmine in the 6, and she's going to take the top spot away. And, I mean, this is one of these drivers, Gianni McJasmine, who's kind of struggled this season. She's run well, but she just hasn't been able to finish it off. She ran really well at Denver. She got up to third. She was battling for the lead at the end, but she ran out of fuel at the end of that race and had to come in on the last lap. And it took away a potentially good finishing position for her. McJasmine, one of 4 drivers so far this season who has yet to finish in the top 10 in any race. Leading laps, that's going to be key for her. Obviously being worth an extra point.
I prefer running 10th all day and finishing 10th than leading a lap and finishing 15th. So, yes, it's key, but I don't. If that's not what the team is focusing on, really trying to make her, feel maybe more confident towards the end of the race and, give her a better late run race car, then I mean, what are they doing?
Rugatino and Talberson, second and fourth right now. And these two are running pretty well. We saw Rugatino win at Calder Park earlier this year, and Talberson, who hasn't won yet this year, but she's performed quite well. And Rugatino now closes in on McJasmine for the race lead. Talberson finished 9th at Phoenix last week in that 39 car, and she's run pretty well all season. 14th in points. They talked about her in the pre-race. Someone to watch around that cut line. I think she could be someone to watch for a win, especially just considering the team she's driving for. They've got 2 wins already this season.
Yep, and I mean, it's definitely one of the more interesting driver, one of the better performing ones. I think when you're performing that well, it's just a question of finishing off, and I don't think that's what she's doing, because if she's ahead by lap 22, it's good, but is it good enough? I honestly I think if such a strategic racetrack, it's not a great idea. You'll just lose a bit of time, and that may be what cost you a win in the end if she's contending at the end of a racetrack. So that's something that these gals need to keep in their mind. That it's lap 24. There's 300 laps to go, and pushing it in early is just not worth it when it's a strategic race like this. It will probably be.
Yeah, especially once we start getting green flag stops. If you're pitting earlier, that's giving you the advantage of tires a little bit earlier in the run, but, you lose that advantage as soon as everyone else who pits later comes in. Like we saw this in the Continental race, multiple drivers, tried kind of backing it up on strategy, tried short pitting, and they'd get out front, and they'd just get run down. Like, Jet Brackett only just barely hung on at the end in the Continental race when she won that race. Only won by 1/10 of a second, and she had about a 2-second lead at one point. So,
and you need to keep in, like, if you're going to make if you're going to try to undercut everyone, then push as hard as you can. But I don't think the undercut's a great strategy around here. I don't think the undercut's a great strategy with these cars at most racetracks.
I don't think the undercut's a great strategy with these tires, but it would depend on what the length of the next run is. If the length of the final run is going to be a short run, I would say go for the undercut. I would say that would be worth it. If it's a longer run, I don't know. Janet Parkins, now in the 72, has just gotten out to the front of the field. Her teammate right there, DeGabby Gabriella, is actually in 4th right now, battling with Nick Jasmina. But here comes Sophie Chantose, who won at the Clash. That's been about the only bright spot for Chantose this season.
Well, here's another one. She could lead a lap, so that'd be something.
Yeah.
Getting good runs like these, that's what gives you a bit of a confidence booster. That's what restarts the season when you're not having a great stock 2-on. So, I mean, she takes it.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing.
Russia, what do you have for us on strategy down there? What are they talking about?
Well, Echo, I've been talking with specifically with the two Team Flurvit cars that are running at the front right now, and what they've told me is that they were looking at the incidents from the race from the Continental race the other day, and they are somewhat planning for some kind of incident to happen potentially in the next couple of runs that cut short the upcoming runs. And as Lou mentioned, the undercut isn't exactly the greatest strategy if we're expecting a long second and third run. But if there is an incident that cuts off the second run and kind of equalizes all the strategy, that's something that I think they're saying that they're going to be paying attention to, and that's why they're running up front right now. Plus, they were looking for both drivers just to get the bonus points for leading a lap, I think, which is another thing to keep in mind, especially with the 20 with the 20 team that's sitting on the playoff bubble right now. Every point does matter to that team.
Yeah, and we're seeing a lot. Whoa, the 16. Oh, the 3 has a major issue as well. No yellow. There's been a lot of issues that all just kind of happened suddenly.
That can happen. If there is sometimes it's just something as stupid as a very bad wind gusts in a specific angle, and 3-4 cars can just have issues. These cars are very sensible, so I'm not surprised to see a bit of issues with a bit of the extreme temperatures that we're seeing today, especially as extreme winds.
And the 3 of Marino looks very slow, and she's coming down the pit road right now. The 16 just stopped on track, so we're gonna have to follow up on that.
It's 3 failures, 2 failures.
That was at least 2.
Interesting.
I think it was, yeah, it was 2. Rasha, what happened to the 16 of Injetta?
Quick note on the 16 team. I think Injetta was complaining about a loose wheel heading in the last couple of laps, and I'm rather shocked that they didn't call a caution for that. That car was stopped right on the exit too. It was albeit in the apron, but that was a bit of a sudden issue. They thought they were going to be able to run it another lap, but the wheel just came kind of way too loose at the end, and they had to stop on the apron there. So that's definitely a tough break for that 16 team, who's had a bit of a roller coaster the last few weeks, to say the least, I think.
Yeah, and Jetta was in the mix at Phoenix last week before a yellow flag came out in the middle of a pit cycle right as she had pitted, so that ruined her finish that day. She finished 16th in that race. But 2 of her teammates are right here in first and second right now, because Yunfi Yanaga has gotten back out to the front, and her teammate Jami McJasmine in the 6th car as well as in the 2nd position right now. 16's coming back out on track. Gonna be quite a few laps down. Her other teammate Gennaro in 7th right now. Mika Gennaro has had a pretty solid run of things lately. You know, she's run pretty well, just hasn't been able to get the finishes to show for it.
That car that's going to be a few laps down is going to be interesting, because if it's if it's off the pace, it can really change on the strategy of the race. It can change the strategy of the race, because now you could have a mobile chicane, and every like couple of dozen laps will shake up the field a little bit and make you take a line that you don't necessarily want to take, and maybe, you know, especially later in the race, when there's going to be marbles a little bit all over the racetrack, just ruin a little bit those tires for a few laps, get them dirty. So if it is slower, it's going to be something to watch out for as the race goes on.
We're watching her right now, since she's on these fresh tires. That car definitely looks like it's solid on pace. The 3 of Mimi Barino has apparently retired from the race. The 16 has right now scored 6 laps down.
God.
So, very tough break for them. That's going to be very difficult to recover from.
Well, if this race becomes crazy, you know, it's early enough that if we get a couple of crazy cautions and maybe a bit of strategy, it could work out. Not too badly. I wouldn't bet on it, but it could. So
Maybe,
I get what it's...
But they've also lost, you know, multiple laps just getting brought back to the pit lane. So, you know, if she's able to get some cautions timed very well, I could see it happening. But that's depending on a lot, especially considering how, you know, we saw the race play out yesterday, and this race has played out very green flag so far as well. Rasha, what's up on the 3 of Barino? What do you got on her?
Yeah, I heard the 3 car of Mimi Reno coming into the pits, and that car's engine did not sound very good. It was definitely misfiring of some sort, and the team took a look under the hood, but they weren't able to find the source of the problem. So they've just had to take it to the garage, and I think that problem is likely to take them out of the race for the rest of the running. So that'll be an early DNF for them. Just another issue for that MBYW team, who seemingly had the worst of the reliability issues of all the teams in this series.
Yeah, and I mean, we've seen MBYW, the 13 and the 3 cars, they've qualified pretty well. They've qualified pretty solidly most weeks. Like we saw them sweep the front row at the Daytona 500. They have not really raced very well. They haven't been able to get race finishes that look great. And Dorina's 38th in points, and Waterton isn't much better than 31st. So, I mean,
I will. No, continue.
I was just say it's very tough for them. What's up?
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say, you know, to continue the discussion, you know, yes, it has a green flag feeling to it at the moment, but all we need is a one big one, and then we get cars with damage. And when you get cars with damage, especially at a racetrack where it's not that easy to overtake like like Texas, pardon me, I mean, it can get ugly quickly. So, yes, it's a green flag feel to it, but it can change very quickly, and I do not think that all of these drivers should, you know, take on account that it's going to be only a long green flag run until the end of the race, because it could very well not be.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with you there. It's like, you know, one incident which, you know, isn't entirely impossible, especially, you know, the 16 comes in early. She pitted a little earlier, so she's on she's on, what, like 35-ish flat fresher tires? You know, she's in a much better position on tires, but when everyone else comes in and pits for tires, she's going to be on much worse tires. She's going to stack up everybody, and that could be where we see an incident of some sort take place.
Yeah, it could be. It could it could just be, you know, something as stupid as, you know, a flat tire in turn 3. It's like there is a high range of possibilities of events, especially considering we've already seen at least 2 failures in this race.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we could definitely see something stupid happen, and maybe that car that seemed to have an issue, maybe it was something with oil, and a bit of oil was left on the racetrack, but not really be seen by anyone. But if somebody goes a little bit too much to the inside, maybe they could clip it, and then it's over. It's directly into the wall. So yeah, it's very. They need to be careful in a strategy race like this, and I don't think crazy calls are gonna win this. But I don't understand. Oh my goodness, that's not something you can do, especially if you're trying to gain positions. You're 6 lights down. Like that car hit the wall there, and that might have been some damage. And if she does it a few times, then it's over. It's over for all intents and purposes. Why overtake on the outside? Sure.
When you have fresher tires like this, I mean,
you can do it, but it's not the way you're gonna gain the most time.
No, it's not. I think the reason she got in the wall there was because they went 3 wide and, you know, in front of her, and she didn't really have much of a spot to go to.
No, it seems counterintuitive for racing drivers to be told that, but slow down. Oh, there's another car on the pit lane.
Another car on pit road. That is 27 of Garnston. That's a bit of an unexpected stop, and that's second in points right there, so...
At least she has a bit of a caution, so...
Yeah.
Even if she has a bad day, she can, like... She's not gonna fall off I call it the chase. It's the playoff, but I still call it the chase because I'm an old grape.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. 27:52 of Rachel Cole has come down the pit road. That appears to be scheduled.
That's very early.
This is very early. I wonder if something might have happened to her. We'll see if we can catch up on the 52 stop.
'27 stop is very long. Also, I think I saw her still in the pit lane there.
Yeah, the 27's still on the pit road. That's not a great sign for that team. Alicantes is out front. Nick Jasmine, Gennaro. Been a good day for Southwest Racing aside from the 16. Like, you got all their cars right here. You know, there's the 6, the 42, the 46. They're all up here in the top 5 right now. And the 16 is going to pass these two. So, and Jetta will now go from 6 laps down to 5 laps down. Assuming she can get by. Which she does.
And that might open the door for the 6, and
Yeah,
that's
that opened the door for the
that's a good
6.
team play.
Noticing that the cars are kind of scraping the wall a little bit off of turn 2 there. Been a bit difficult to handle off that corner. I think that's where the wind's coming from, so, you know. Been a bit difficult to run that corner for these drivers.
That's interesting. And if they're doing that early, they're gonna do that all race. Because usually they just keep running higher as the race goes on. So that means probably not on the first stop, but if they continue to hit the wall, maybe on the second, third, fourth stop, they have to repair damage, and that might change everything. If there's a late damage repair for one of the cars that's racing for the lead.
See if I can check what happened to the 52, because I think we're being told that there might have been contact between the 52 and the 27.
Oh.
Where's the 27? There's the 27.
Already in the pits.
Already in the pits at this point.
Oh my god.
Oh, the 27. Ooh, that is a major issue.
That doesn't seem like it's gonna be in the race. Ooh.
That's what happened. Tollerone is coming to the pits.
I will say, congrats to the that's a good job from the 27 to just get out of the way as much as possible, get into that pit lane.
Yeah, unfortunately, it did a
make
lot of damage to the car. I think the 16 Vendetta just pitted as well.
Oh.
Yeah, she did. Huh. Well, Russia, what do you got on the 27? What happened to her?
Yeah, the 27, that engine just blew up. That is a full engine failure on that 27. On that 27, that was just that car just blew up in a pool of smoke right off of turn 4. I'm rather surprised that Garnstone chose to immediately divert into pit lane, given how late it happened. She took a little bit. She had to take quite a bit of diversionary measures almost to get her car into a pit stall. But yeah, that I guess she wanted to avoid stopping in the quad oval and maybe causing a caution or a bigger incident. So I guess kudos on her for that, but that is a big hurdle for them, a big setback for them given how well they've been running all season. As for the 52, that team is just rolling the dice a little bit on a big undercut. We're seeing a couple of teams come in now. I'll get some maybe a bit more word on their situation later. But Cole was struggling with the handling of the car on that first run, so I think the team elected to bring her in and just make the necessary adjustments and put her on some fresh tires and fuel her up, just so she can get a track advantage. And,
oh
wow!
God!
There's an incident at the back stretch. That's going to change things up.
Oh!
We'll have to.
Oh,
that's
no.
another thing. I'll have to get back to you on that one. As we'll get our first caution here in the race. Back to you in the booth, Echo.
Well, that was a major incident. Major incident. We had the 17 went up and over of Dira Reister. And the caution is out at lap 61. A couple of Evans Ross Racing teammates got into each other there. I saw Carly Byrne and Marisha Vebels were into it. We'll have to take a look at that. We'll have to take a look at that. Yeah.
That's gonna be a lot of cars with damage. That might be what, could set up a bit of the dominoes.
Free pass car was supposed to be the 52. She came to pit road this lap along with everyone else, so So she'll be waved around this next time by. Yeah, it looks like a few of those cars came to pit road. The 16. Yeah, 16 has now scored an 8 laps down at the moment, so. With
Somebody should on pit road.
23 looks like she'll win the race off pit road. Whoa, whoa!
What? Wow.
All right. 3 wide off pit road does not work, apparently.
That's gonna be a lesson that everybody's gonna learn for the next cycle.
Yeah.
And that's gonna be a and that's unfortunate for that.
That's
got
unfortunate
sent
for
in the wall
Yatika,
there.
yeah. Yatika had, she had a good bit of momentum going before, and
Just outside the cutoff there, so
yeah.
that's gonna set her back.
I'm not sure what happened there.
Frankly speaking, Echo, I'm just as perplexed as you are as to what happened on that pit exit. But at the same time, I can definitely tell you that the 92 team is absolutely fuming at whatever that pit exit incident was. I don't know why I don't know why they were sending it 3 wide on the exit of pit lane, but it clearly did not work, and I think there's going to be a lot of I should say, stern words by, if not the teams, by the series itself as to that incident, because frankly speaking, that's something that should not be happening.
Yeah, absolutely. So the 16 took the wave around there, so she's going to be 7 laps down. And she'll line up at the tail end. A few lap cars are mixed in with these lead lappers, so...
Will we get a replay of what happened, or?
Yeah, we will. I believe it happened somewhere up here. Oh, the 9 just spins off the 20 there.
That's irresponsible. That's a move that could have been easily avoided. And yeah. I guess that's just that's karma there.
Yeah. A
Oh,
lot of
really
restart.
tough
Hard
hit.
hit. That was a tough hit. That was really rough for a
And-
restart, especially right on the driver's side.
At least, considering the car went flipping, that probably means the car absorbed a bunch of the impact, so could have been worse. But yeah, that's really not good.
Russia, what do you got on the 9 of Burn and the 99 of Bubbles?
Well, with the 9 of Burn, with the 9 of Burn, in the previous, so we mentioned the issues with the corner exits and how tight the exit can be with respect to how wide the corners are, and that's kind of exactly what happened to Burn there. She was kind of crowded out. She, I think, just crowded the car that she ran into out of room, and that's kind of started that whole chain of incidents right there. As for the 99, I don't think you'll be surprised to hear that Vebels was extremely unhappy as you see a car blowing up on the restart.
God.
That's another dramatic moment in this race. But yeah, I don't think you'll be surprised to know that Mauricia Vebels was absolutely fuming on the radio after that incident. And I think there might be some choice words in the team meeting afterwards. I'll report to you back on that 6 car because that looks like a major terminal problem as well.
Looks like she was able to get it to the pit road, but she had to turn it almost directly onto the pit road there. Well, that's tough for McJasma as we see her engine go up in smoke on the restart there. Out front, though, Yappy Malikson, the Australian driver leading here in Texas. Then it's Halverson, then it's Rugatino, and Rugatino's coming to the pit road. Shows the 18 and the 42.
Yeah. Oh, I think the car blew up just before the starting line, right? So it might have caused a few penalties.
It might have given them penalties for jumping. That's tough for these cars. So Malikson has the lead, and it's Talberson, Chantose, Stoneman, Alicia Byrne is 5th, Nihale, Davison, Abriella, Parkings, and Schliesenbach that make up the top 10. Carly Byrne's still in the race, that 9 car. She's still running. This car doesn't look too badly damaged right now.
Doesn't seem to be keeping up with the draft though, so.
Yeah. So Malikson leading.
And what we're seeing quite a few times. We've seen quite a few times at the start of this race that this tandem strategy of just going 2 cars and pulling ahead significantly seems really to be the most like just a 2-car draft seems to be more beneficial than 3 cars, just because they, for some reason, they seem to be unable to just keep it, you know, in a line. They always want to get side by side, which isn't ideal when you're trying to get away from the rest of the pack. And yeah, they tried to go side by side here. That didn't work, but at least they tried.
Yeah, I think the kind of thing we're seeing is that's the kind of thing we're seeing is mostly, you know, we're seeing that these cars are just kind of just, you know, they race better when they're single filed out, but as the run goes on, that's when they tend to double file out and start to spread out a little bit. The racing starts to be a little, you know, there starts to be a little more action.
Yep, and the fact that that's combined with the driver who's getting wider seems to indicate to me that we might not have a lot of green flag stops, because those 2 factors combined, well, we could have a repeat of that accident we saw, that first accident we saw of the race a few times.
Russia, what happened to McJasmina?
For the 6 of McJasmina, that car's on the restart, I think McJasmina reported that the engine just simply wouldn't fire, and all of a sudden a big plume of smoke came out of the car on that restart, and she was trying to get it to go, which created a bit of a chaotic situation there. Fortunately, nobody ran into her, but yeah, they think it's a problem with the cams on that car. I think that engine was not firing, and we know for a fact that Southwest Racing is not pleased with the penalties that they handed out to those drivers on the restart there, especially to the 42 of Gennaro, who was one of those drivers that was caught up in that. They're saying that there was basically nowhere they could go with given the chaotic nature of that restart, and they're frankly rather shocked that the officials called those drivers in for jumping the restart there. That they're saying that was a bit of a extraordinary circumstance. Back to you.
In my opinion, they should have just called the restart off. Good to made another lap on their pace car, because that was.
Well, the pace car was already off. They'd already shown
green
they'd already shown the green flag by the time she went. So, you know, there wasn't really much they could have done there.
Well, if the car wasn't firing up, it was probably something that had already been reported on the radio. So I guess that's a bit of a communication issue, but
I
that's
guess.
yeah, that's very unfortunate. I don't think penalties should have been given out then, and I hope that AWSCO officials learn their lesson here on giving penalties, because that's cleanly ridiculous.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there.
At least it's early, so they can still come back. At least.
Catching up to some lappers here. This is the 34 of Harina and the 21 of Wandayo.
And that's going to be the real danger zone here, those
This is where it's
slower
going to stack
cars.
people up, yeah. Here comes Alicia Byrne in the 91. And the 91 car now out front. Alicia Byrne, the only Mason Parker driver who has not won a race yet. As they are really getting aggressive, trying to get past these lap cars. There's 3 red racing cars up in this front group, with Malikson, Davison actually kind of appeared here. She's shown up in this last little bit, and Audie Stoneman is here as well. But it cycled to the 91 out front. Here comes the 26 of Chantosay. She'll take the lead. With the 72, gonna close in on her. There's the Gabby Abiella, who kind of, you know, started the cascade that led to the last incident. She's still up here. She's in 6th right now, actually.
Well, that's a good sign until oh, wow, they almost made contact there coming out of turn 2. That could have ended badly. They seem to be really aggressive on going to the inside. That's they seem to really not want to let the drivers go to the inside, and that might cause a few issues as the race goes along.
Well, only one caution so far. Although, you know, this race hasn't been without action.
One caution, about 600 mechanical failures, and two wrecks. Because
Yeah.
you had one coming out of the pits.
We had a wreck coming out of the pit road, and you know, we're still waiting on word for how Dura Reister is doing out of the infield care center after her massive hit there. You know, she took a hit pretty much straight to the driver's side door. But these cars are very safe, and we're hoping that she's come out of it okay.
We've seen similar hits this season that have ended well-ish for the drivers, so I'm quite confident that it'll be right. But maybe a bit of a concussion, maybe something like that could happen.
Yeah.
Hopefully not. But
it's not our job to speculate. We'll have our pit reporters be able to report on that. So Yappy Malikson back out front. She's got her teammate in 2nd. How about Laurie Schliesenbach in the 8 car? She's running very well. This is something, you know, they had talked about it in the pre-race, that she needed a good run because, you know, she'd been slipping back quite a bit in the standings. This is looking like one of them. This is looking like a good run for her. Top 5 right now, although I'm not sure she'll hold that spot for that much longer.
well, anywhere in the top 10 would be good for her, really. So
Yeah.
I think as long as there's nothing stupid that happens, she's in a great spot to have a good result. But again, things can change very quickly. What's the gap between 10th and 11th?
10th, Chantosay. 10th is Nihil. The gap is about 3 seconds.
That's interesting. That's not.
Yeah, this lead pack and the second pack are really split up.
Well, that's wow. So they're gonna. I mean, if they're in the second pack now, they're hoping for caution. So, because honestly, even with strategy, even with everything, you don't make 3 seconds back at a drafting track, or semi-drafting track.
Yeah.
So, and especially if it's actually, I think there's a potential that the second group might catch up if one of these times that the slow lapped cars get by, they block a few of those cars and scrape a few cars off that pack.
Yeah.
Split it in two maybe. So that'd be the way for the second pack to get back to the front.
Yeah.
But if that doesn't happen, it won't happen naturally. That's for certain.
I mean, I think the other thing, I'd be very curious about here. I'd say, if you're one of those cars that's got penalties and you're a lap down, you're trying to run as hard as you can right now.
Yeah.
Because you want that free pass spot. But the longer this race goes on, the more that's going to hurt you, because there were about, 4 cars that had to come down pit road there to serve the penalty. Only one of them can get the free pass, and, this outside of that incident, this race has looked like it's not going to have a lot of yellows, especially with, the leniency in terms of how mechanical failures have gone, where they've not thrown the yellow for cars, down on the apron.
Yep. And honestly, if I'm if I'm one of those cars that are trying to get on the big lap, what I do is not try to push it as hard, but try to conserve as much as possible, barely getting into the draft, so that you try to make it a pit, a very, very long overcut.
Yeah.
So that way, if there's a caution after the pit cycle, at the end of the pit cycle, you could get a free pass like that. I think it's the better strategy than just trying to push for a free pass in the hopes that there's a caution, especially considering the moments a caution are more likely to happen is a pit cycle, when the cars have different speeds.
Yeah. I mean, we saw, Jamie McJasma in the 6th car last week at Phoenix. She actually timed the yellow very well. She stayed out for a while, and she only pitted as the yellow was coming out. So she actually was able to stay on the lead lap because of that, and she had been about 2 or 3 laps down beforehand. So.
Yep, that's definitely the good way to go. I don't know if pitting while the caution is coming out. That'd be a bit playing with fire, but maybe.
I mean, Phoenix is Phoenix is also a much longer track, so you could get away with more there. Well, I guess I should say much longer in terms of lap time. Our NordVPN fastest lap right now, Angeli Rugatino has that mark with a 27.532. That's the fastest lap of the race so far. She's currently sitting at 21st, 1 lap down. She was one of those cars that suffered the penalty for jumping the restart, trying to get past the car that had an engine expire.
That might not change for a while, as they get more settled into their race pace. I don't think anyone's going to push as nearly as hard now that we're coming to close lap 100. Until they get to lap maybe around 280, 300, they get close to that race win, and they don't really have a lot to. They only have a lot to lose at that point. But right now they basically have everything to lose, so they shouldn't push hard. But one thing that may make them push hard is those lap cars.
Well, yeah, the lap car got in the way of the 23 here. Alexson's going to get hurt by the 34 Harina being slow in front of her. Here comes the 8 of Schliesenbach. I mean, that's 3 red racing cars right here. That's 1, 2, 3. Stoneman, Davison, and Alexson all here right now. I mean, if you're Schliesenbach, if you're Schliesenbach, you're kind of interrupting this. Are you worried that the teammates are going to gang up on you here, or are you just like not really
On
concerning yourself
strategy.
with that?
I am on strategy. I'm not in the race because Texas isn't a place where if 3 cars start to make you know, to want to see you gone, they can make you gone. It's not like that. But yes, on strategy, definitely. You want your spot. I think you want to stay right behind them so that when they try to pit together, you can pit with them. Which is a bit counterintuitive. You want to, if you're a racing driver, you want to lead. But in this scenario, I think you just want to stay behind and make sure you pit with the majority of that first pack.
That's a very, very fair point. We saw the 21 almost get into a lead lap car. The 21 veered almost into the 64 Jocelyn Nihil. That was a very startling moment for, I think, kind of everyone around that. But we have taken we have started the 100th lap. Stoneman, Malikson, Byrne, Nihil, and Talberson make up the top 5.
Not for long.
Yeah, the 22 is here.
But hey, if they can make it a single file race, maybe gain a few times on that second group, really secure the fact that you're not gonna get it to come back, even with those lap cars playing a bit of a factor. I think that's what you'd want to do, and maybe after this second pit, then you can really just try to make overtakes until the end of the race.
Yeah.
And be basically secure in the fact. But right now, I think trying to push the gap to that second pack is the. Hey, look at that! I just noticed that the first 3 cars are kind of pulling ahead a bit.
Yeah,
And,
the top 2 have gapped a little bit. Happeman is a lap down in front of these 2, so.
Well, the first 3 cars in the pack. That's what I
Yeah.
should have said. Yes.
It is starting to spread out just a bit here.
I like what I'm seeing from that second group. We flashed there, but yes, I like what I'm seeing with a little bit more of a one-liner, and
Yeah, they're kind of just hanging back right now.
yes, they are, but that's a good thing. They don't want to push it. They don't want to make something stupid and lose any chance that they would have to. But honestly, if you wanted to, you could dump someone. But I don't know if that'd end well for the next race.
If you did that, you'd probably get suspended.
There's always ways to get around. Those drivers are smart. They know how to wreck somebody without it being too obvious. Without it being so obvious that they can't make a case that that it wasn't intentional.
I guess. I just, I guess, we don't want to be encouraging these drivers to intent wreck either way, though. Because that's, not great.
I'm not saying they should. I'm saying they could. But yeah, those I like what I'm seeing from that second pack, and maybe they once they come back of the pits, they can try to get that fastest lap. Especially if you're farther at the front of the field, you could try to get it because that's a bonus point, I think. Right?
What? Leading lap?
The fastest lap.
Oh yeah, fastest lap is a bonus point.
Yeah, so they could try to gain that at least 1 point, and that hey, because 300 laps at a racetrack when you're going 2-2 racing, that's boring. So maybe it could make them a little bit more interesting for them. But hey, you know where it's interesting? Up front. There it's interesting.
Yeah.
Then we just had an overtake for the paint.
We're seeing Malix and Stoneman kind of trade positions, and these 2 are teammates. I kind of wonder if these two are just kind of swapping spots and just kind of not running it super hard right now. It's a red racing 1, 2, 3 at the moment. Malikson, Stoneman, and Davison have the top 3 spots.
That'd be the smart thing to do, you know, avoid as much as one driver taking the load of tire consumption and fuel consumption. So switching the positions would make sense. They don't seem to be losing as much time as they would have at the beginning of the race. That's very interesting. Something to keep an eye on as we go along. Maybe they learn how to overtake without losing a lot of time. And if that happens, then honestly, if a car takes off like they're doing right now, it could very well be between those cars that have taken off and those 3 red racing car, was it?
Yeah, this is red racing, the 23, 10, and 22. As they're putting some of these cars, they're putting a few cars a lot down here now. That's Carly Byrne and Ava Ajarsaraj, the 9 and the 98.
Dealing with a lot of traffic very well. Everyone has since the start of the race, so
yeah,
that's a good sign of
the lap traffic hasn't been
more
too much
green
of
flag race.
The lap traffic hasn't been too much of a hindrance in this one. I wouldn't say it hasn't been a hindrance. It definitely has been. You know, there's been issues getting around, but they haven't really been bothering these drivers too much.
Definitely.
2 teammates here. That's Davison, who got by Malikson, and now Davison's going to try to get by Stoneman here. Janet Parkins is 4th as we have a caution out on the racetrack. It is the 52. Rachel Cole has spun.
That's the hopes if they come back over. But that's interesting.
Well, that brings out the caution.
That first and second group that had taken off, it's all gone now.
Yeah. We're going to see some pit stops here under the caution flag. It should be the 98 of Ajarsaraj who will get the free pass here. Where these lap cars end up cycling out will be interesting.
Hopefully we don't get Trey wide coming out of the pits again.
Yeah, hopefully. Rashia, what's up on pit road? You got any news?
Yeah, well, we'll be focusing on the red cars for this pit cycle. I got 2 cars running. They're running 1-2 right now. It's just gonna be a standard 4 tires and fuel stop here for Stoneman. She's going to be, I think the crew is going to be taking some what do you call it? Tire pressure adjustments to that car. As there you go. She's been sent off now for the what is going on with the 46 and 23 there? Well, it looked like a smooth pit stop for the 23. They were also making adjustments to make the car a little bit tighter on the long run, but all of a sudden I think the 23 and 4, I think the 23 was exiting pit lane, exiting her pit stall as the 46 was entering, and there was a decent bit of contact between the two. I wonder if they're gonna have to bring that 23 car back into the pits. There, that looked like a decent bit of damage by for the 23 team. Well, see if the 46 is out as well. So whatever damage it was to the 23 and 46, that doesn't seem like it was too bad for either of them. So hopefully that didn't affect their pace too much. But that's both red racing teams pretty happy with the way their cars are handling so far. Bit of adjustments being made for the car as it goes on the long run, but otherwise, so far, a solid day for both the 10 and 22. 10 and 23, I should say. Over to you, Echo.
Yeah, and some real drama on the pit road there.
That's the second time it has happened today. We didn't see 4 in center for the first time, because while it was happening, there was a car flipping at the exit of the exit of the pits. But it happened the first. It happened the first pit cycle again. I don't think it was between the two same cars, but it happened. Seems like a Texas pit lane might have a bit of an issue of that kind here. Maybe
Yeah,
it's
it's
a little bit too tight, but it
very,
happens.
very narrow exit, but well, very narrow exit there, and it's just a very narrow pit road in general. So, you know, very tough for those cars once again. We are going to see these lap down cars that are in between these lead lap cars. They will get waved around. We will see a few of these cars that actually, you know, received penalties last time by get the wave around here. As because of when they pitted with the lead lap cars, so they cycled out with the lead lap cars. Lights are out on the pace car, so we are going to be going green this time. Davison, Stoneman, Malikson, the top three. Parkings.
Are we gonna see a replay of what happened, or?
Yes, we will. Chantose, Gabriella,
Sure.
Byrne, Tosima, Ijavida, and Rariston. Take a look back at the 52. Racing with the 42, make a Gennaro. 42, I think, just gets into her off the corner.
Turn 2 again.
Yep, turn 2, just loses it there.
Might be a constant that we see all race long. It's the second time already, so.
Yeah.
At least this time it was only a spinner and everyone is
yeah.
able to continue, so
Yeah.
there's that.
Here we go, green flag is back out, and we are racing once more in Texas.
Terrible launch for the 22, but managed to recover it.
Managed to hold on to it there. And they continue to stay single file here. And for Angeli Rigatino, she actually got waved by. Remember this car, she has the fastest lap. She was really fast earlier on. She's got some work to do to get back to the front, but I feel like if, you know, things fall her way, she could totally do it. She could get back up to the lead.
Definitely. We're not even halfway in this race. They can still come back from the back. I'll say once we get past halfway, that's when it's going to start to get harder. But especially, you know, if there's a bit of a lucky caution, it could happen. Or if, oh my, well, even if there's a unlucky caution like here, oh god, that almost was a big wreck.
18 almost, the 18 ran through the grass to not get into people there, so that's tough. But, you know, we're seeing here the red racing cars, as these cars keep battling back here, these three are just running away. I mean, they just got so much, you know, they're working together and they're running away. And you know, the next group we're seeing is actually another pair of teammates. That's Tosima and Talberson in the 93 and 39.
Those red racing cars are really well tuned.
Yeah.
They've been quick for most of the season. Look at this. Here today, they were just... I wouldn't call it dominating, but I'd call it certainly the best team, and by quite a long shot for the moment.
Right now, in this race, I would agree. I think the best team all season is definitely not red. They haven't won a race yet, but they've been fast. And, you know, all of these three drivers that are up at the front, they all look very strong. we are seeing, you know, these Mercedes 93 and then 39 are starting to get by, should make moves. Davison was looking underneath Stoneman here. The 93 is closed right up. And Tosima kind of doing her thing of, you know, she wasn't really anywhere for most of this race until right about now. And she kind of did this at Phoenix too, but she didn't really show up until about 100 or so laps in, and after a while she tuned her car up enough to where she was able to get to the front of the field.
Which isn't a bad strategy at all. Just stay at the back, or stay, you know, more at the back as the race starts, and you know, people do stupid tricks and get you know, get too aggressive and try to go 3 wide and lose a bunch of tire wear. So I don't blame her for just waiting around and coming back up. It's a risky game, that's for certain, but it seems to be at least somewhat working. But you know, as I say that, falling down the order again.
Yeah, this is very much a track of, you know, where you kind of just get shuffled. We're seeing Rarison now in the 32 go for the lead. Trying to get that Honda out in clean air now. We haven't really seen a Honda out front today, I don't think. So I believe this would give us all 5 manufacturers of lead in this race. Here comes the 18 Imperial Alicante. She's 1 lap down. If she passes the 32, she would get back on the lead lap just on pure pace here.
That's definitely impressive. I don't know if that's a great strat to try to go for the race lead, because if you get shuffled to the outside after getting on the race lead, you might I mean, you saw it for the 93, losing 8 positions. You might get outside of that lucky dog if you're really unlucky. So I don't think it's the best decision, but I guess she was kind of stuck there once she was only
3 wide for the lead.
Oh my! Wow.
Cars check it up. That's a good
Whoa,
call
that's...
from Stoneman. She just stopped. She just slowed down. Didn't want to mess with that.
That's a really good call, especially considering what we've seen at the exit of 2 today. Going 3 wide at the exit of 2 would have been a death sentence, probably.
Yeah.
So that was a good thing.
Alicante's, you know, hoping, you know, I think if you're one of those lap cars, you get past the leader, she's hoping for a quick caution. She didn't get it, and now she's going to drop back behind the 32.
Very well could have happened with the 3 ride, so could have looked like a genius call.
Here comes Talberson. Big run for the 39 car. So we get to the inside of the former Evans-Ross Racing driver, Cynthia Rarison. And takes the lead. Out front, it's Talberson. Second place now, Youngwei Koo in the 38. Looking very solid. You know, she was very close to winning the Clash. Just wasn't meant to be. It just didn't happen. And it hasn't really gone much better for her ever since then. But a good run for her in this one. She came into this race 34th in points. She's going to lead a lap. They're about to catch these next 2 lap cars. That's Wandayo and Harina again. These 2 are...
They're all in the same pack now, because the last 2 times they caught the lap cars, they were you know, separated into 2 packs and more into a single line situation here. They're very much in a 2 wide situation for a lot of the front runners, and they're in a single pack. So this is where we could start to see a bit of a tragedy for somebody getting stuck on the outside and losing 30 places or something like that. Oh, they went all in a single line. That is a great call. Oh no. Might have jinxed it.
Whoa, they had to check up because they started blocking both lanes.
That's irresponsible.
Whoa!
That's just something.
The
Oh my
32.
god!
Wow, that was a great save.
That's completely irresponsible for no-slap cars. They need to get in a single lane. What are they doing? They're gonna make the entire field wreck if they're continuing to do things like that.
Yeah, that was very,
Wow.
very, very dangerous, and Rarison with a great job to not cause an incident there in the 32 car, but wow, this just stacked up everyone, and I feel like if we're going to get an incident, it's going to be right here, because look at how much this group has been stacked up.
Yeah, that's the other side of the kind of the slinky effect, you could call it.
Yeah. Interesting to note here as well, the 16's not slow. Look at the 16 car. She's, up here. Keep in mind that this car is currently scored 7 laps down. So,
Hey, it's good for the sponsors.
yeah. I mean, there's Alicantes, who's, the first car lap down. Still in the lucky dog position. Yania Waterton in the 13, right behind. She's the second car lap down. The 16 is 31st. She's 7 laps down, but, I mean, hey. Running pretty well. Not really any others, who are laps down in this front group. The 52 is, currently scored 1 down, but not in the worst situation, considering that, that car doesn't have a rear end. That car doesn't have its bumper cover on anymore.
We might start to see a pack separating at the back, getting kind of stuck with all of that lap traffic and getting very wide. And for those drivers, they might want to get very desperate soon, because if they lose the draft, I mean, if there's a caution before the end of this race, could be cool. Otherwise, it's not good at all if they're starting to lose at the draft here. You see it right there, that big gap.
And there is a pretty large gap between them, and I mean, we've kind of seen, remember how the red racing cars had that 1, 2, 3 earlier? Now they're all gone. I mean, the 822 is the only one in the top 10 left, and she's 8. Right now it's 39 at Talverson who's kind of leading this thing, just kind of stretching her way out there.
This race has a big feeling of what I call a sponsor showcase race, where it's just the cars rotating at the front of the field, giving all of the sponsors a good few value for their buck, I guess.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is, because we have a few forces that stay up front they've stayed up front for most of this race, but it's not really. You haven't seen anyone really impressive today. It's just been whoever is able to get a good run when they start to get a bit of tire wear and able to separate a bit.
Yep. I mean, that's just kind of how you got to run this track. You gotta be patient.
There's patience, and then there's this, which is, I don't think they're patient. If they were patient, we would have gotten 5 moments in the past 50 laps when they could have wrecked.
That's fair. I mean, I guess
it's just really how they race, and there's the way this track is done. There's physically not a lot of ways to avoid this.
Yeah. The way these cars drive here is, it's very hard for this track to not end up as this kind of a race, but, we are seeing, good battles. There's good battling around the track. I think
It's good battling. I don't get me wrong. It's good battling. It's not a boring race. It's just not one of these races where we'll see a driver stay up front for 200 laps, and that's why the red racing cars being really good for one run, because they got their things together and managed to get up front.
Yeah.
I mean, it's good for them. It's a bunch of laps led, but it's not really surprising that when we get another caution and they're back they're back with the other people. They're just not able to get as much luck and stay up front. So really, it's just they have a good car. They definitely, otherwise they would have been able to pull up to pull a gap. But they just can't get it run because the way this track is done.
Yeah. Point out easily Javida in the 2, running in 10th right now. Javida's had a great run of things, lately. Didn't have a great start to the season, but been top 20 most races ever since we came back from Australia. And she's running 10th again.
For some of these drivers, jet lag is a real effect, and driving when you're not at 100%, even if you're on like 90% of the jet lag, that can cause quite a few bad results. So it doesn't surprise me. I mean, there are some drivers, you see the difference between the eastern races and the western races, depending on where they live. So it doesn't surprise me.
And I mean, a lot of these teams not really based in the same area. Gulf Racing based out of Texas. This is their home track. And that's the 38 and the 60 cars. And the 38's running 3rd right now. So this is a pretty good race for, home race for this Gulf Racing team. You see AWSCO in the 60 running in 11th right now as well. So she's doing a pretty solid job at the moment.
Seems like we're getting 3 packs this time.
Yeah, we kind of got a bit of a split of 3, yeah.
Yep, we got about maybe like the top, it's a lot of lappers and the top maybe 15, and then we get a bit of a separation and a few more cars, and then a bit of a separation in the rest of the cars, which isn't ideal if you're in the second and third pack. If you're in the other situation that we had at the beginning of the race, where it was only 2 similarly sized packs, that was fine if you're in the second pack, because you don't really lose time. In this situation, if you're in one of the smaller 2 packs at the back, you're probably losing a bit of time. And if there is not a caution, doesn't seem like it's the feeling of this race. Seems like when we get to the end of the runs, we get cautions.
Yeah.
But if you do not get a caution, then you're gonna get probably screwed in the pits, because you won't have nearly as many drafting partners when you go out of the pits, and then you're screwed. Because again, drafting very important in this track.
Shout out to 16 here. She's gonna unlap herself on the 39. So the 16 is actually now 6 laps down. She was 7 down. She's cycled it to 6 down. Now we'll see if she can keep that. If she gets lucky with a caution, but she'll have to get lucky really quickly, because the 91 is right underneath her.
The 16 has been one of those cars that has been very, very quick today. If it wasn't for the car having that issue at the beginning of the race, which I think was down, right?
Yeah, she had a tire down. She had a tire down, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, could have maybe battled for the race lead.
Yeah.
'Cause it definitely seems like it's able to keep up at the front. It's one of those cars that's able to just not stay directly at the front, but it's able to stay in the top 15 and then come back up.
Yeah. And I mean, if you're in Jeddah, if you're driving that car, you're hoping for some cautions, just because you get to the front like this, you get here at this point, and the caution comes out, and you're able to stay up here through the pit cycle. That's a free lap, just because of the way that they wave cars around under, if you're a lap car in between the top 10, they'll wave you around. If you can stay in if she can stay in this position when a caution comes out, that's, 1 lap at a time, but it works.
I will say, 6 lap down now? 7 laps down?
She's 7 down again, because she got passed
7
by the 39.
So 7 laps down. Sure, that can work. I don't know if it's gonna work here, just because the patterns of the caution is about 1 every 60 lap. So that means we get 3 or 4 more cautions before the end of this race.
Yeah.
That's not enough. you need to see an increase in cautions, and considering there's less cars than before, that's less likely.
Yeah, and I mean, we might end up seeing a green flag cycle, you know, at some point anyways.
We could. I wouldn't bet on it.
With these cars, you know, they'll get a little better adjusted. Whoa.
That's bad timing to say that we're gonna stay green. But yeah.
The lap cars just went too wide in front of the leaders again, so.
Oh yeah. That's.
Whoa, 91 just ticked the wall a little bit. Now we're starting to get
That's
to the
kind
point in the run where, you know, they're getting into the wall. Yeah, the 16 now, you know, out front here.
They need to be extremely careful with those lap cars, because if somebody gets in the wall and with the lap cars slowing the field down, could have a massive ripple effect.
Look at how far out the 16 is because the 21 keeps blocking. I mean, that now puts the 16 six laps down again.
And with the lap cars there, I'm not sure if it's a bad thing for the 16 to be up front.
Yeah.
I'll say if there's not a caution though, it kind of screws over the 16 because they'll just come up with more speed. So
Yeah.
it's more a question of hope.
I mean, you just gotta do whatever you can. You're that many laps down, you know, that car definitely has you know, very fast paced. The 16 car is up here at the front, but she's very clearly fast enough to win the race if she wasn't this far back.
You know, if I'm a 16 cam, I'm kind of biting my fingers because in that first pit cycle, well, right before that first caution, the 16 pitted.
Yeah.
She was 4 laps down before. So she could have been in this situation where she could still come back, but without, you know, it being so far-fetched.
Yeah.
But right now, it seems basically impossible, sadly.
These lap cars have kind of strung this pack back together again.
Yep, that makes sense. Hey, that's wow. Now we're seeing kind of 26 and is that a 72 behind?
Is the
Pulling that's the 18. Okay, that's the 18 lap car.
18 is a lap
They're
down
kind of-
and in the free pass position if we were to get a caution.
Yeah, they're kind of pulling ahead. So that's a good thing for them. Not for too long. But generally, if what I tend to notice is if you're pulling ahead by a bit, even if it's because of just lucky track position when the lap cars arrive, you tend to keep that position ahead, even though the other lap cars come back. You don't lose a lot of positions because even when they're coming back, they're not necessarily as tied in together as if they were fighting. So you tend to find a slot where you can fill in more quickly than if it was just a rotating race.
Point out the 22, Andre Davison. Remember how we were talking about the red racing cars? You know, they were leading a lot. Davison back up to second now. So, they're still here. There's Yenfi Yanaga, who's involved in a bit of that, you know... Wasn't she part of that pit road kerfuffle?
I think she was in the middle, yeah.
Yeah. She's actually doing a pretty solid job climbing back up. She's in ninth right now. '26 is going to lap this 16 once again here. So that'll put the 16 back to being 7 down.
They're coming back to more lap cars. Oh, the 16 hit the wall. That's not good.
Yeah, that's the 9 and the 98.
Also, the last time that the 16 pitted, well, not the last time, but the first time after that, the tire down, just before the first caution, that was because of damage. So
Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that was before the damage. So
Yeah.
yeah, that's, you don't want to get your car damaged. Definitely.
Yeah.
And now the 22 doing it. I mean,
22
their
just-
tires are starting to die.
Yeah, the tires are starting to fade out. You know, this is like kind of the point where you're gonna see. This is where the tires kind of fade out. Is the point the tires fade out is when they'll start, you know, regularly kind of slapping the wall off too. Here, it's just really hard. You know, with the wind we're getting, it's very difficult to keep a handle on it exiting too.
You can kind of see it for some of the way these cars are driving, especially when they're too wide. They sort of have to shake a little bit when they're coming out of two because they just lose a bit the car. You can really see it. So that yeah, it's the conditions tonight are pretty tough, especially for that corner, which is
Yeah.
unfortunate because it's an exit. If it was an entry, it wouldn't be as much of an issue.
98 got who was the car that got the free pass last yellow. She's been put back a lap down again. And she'll get passed for the free pass before we even reach the start-finish line here. Here comes the
Seems
39
like
to
we have-
Talberson. What were you going
Go
to say?
ahead. No, go ahead. I was just gonna say. So it seems like we're getting to the moment because if she was the free pass car the last time, basically means we're coming to the moment the caution would have come out last time by
Yeah.
in terms of the cycle. So, hey, we might get into uncharted territory for these drivers.
The 10 car, Stoneman, has moved her way to 10th once more. I'm more curious where the 23 is. If she's got quite a bit of damage, she's kind of slipping back here quite a bit, so... Well, Talverson, now up front in the 39 car, as we are one lap away from taking the halfway point. And I mean, halfway done with this race, is this where you expect the aggression to ramp up?
Wouldn't, considering it's a very long race, I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't say in maybe 90 to 120 laps, depending on if when the caution is and when the last pit cycle would be. But right now, if you start to be aggressive, that means you're betting on cautions, a lot of cautions until the end of the race, because strategically wise, we still have, you know, 2-3 more stops to go in this race. So you wouldn't want to get yourself in a compromising position by pitting at the wrong moment. But actually, I'm kind of thinking about it right now. The last stint could be very short.
Yeah.
Could be very, very short, because if what's the pit cycle here? Maybe like every 90 laps, 80 laps?
It's about 65.
Oh, 65 laps. That means we're really close to it. All right.
Yeah.
Because that means then, so the last caution was about lap 120.
Yeah, 120 or so.
So 120.
Yeah, we're getting pretty close.
185. Yeah. So definitely. Yeah. I'm calculating in my head. Well, yeah, the last caution is going to be a very short. The last stint, is going to be very short. So that means
Yeah, and that's assuming they don't short pit these cycles as well, because that's something that they probably could do.
Would be risky with the caution.
I will say, here's the 32. The 32 actually already came to the pit road. I believe she had some kind of damage from, you know, that near spin earlier, but this 32 car is, you know, here up in the, she just pitted, so she's a couple laps down. Or she is one lap down, but she has the benefit of those fresh tires right now.
And a clean racetrack. I don't think there's anyone in front of her.
There's not really anybody around her. Well, I am kind of scared to do this, but it is time for our FanDuel Fan Studio mid-race report. The last couple of weeks we've done the Fan Studio, we've had incidents pretty much right in the middle of the segment. I'm hoping we don't have this again. I don't know if we will. Rasha, Eddie, you two, how do you two feel about this race? What's on your mind in this one as we've reached halfway?
Well, hide the field, everyone, as we're back in the studio for the mid-race report. Right now, we're watching the 26 of Sophie Chantose lead the way here at Texas Motor Speedway, closely followed by the number 39 of Lily Tulberson. Those two cars have rather broken away from the rest of the field, as we're starting to see the field spread out over the long run once again. This is pretty similar racing so far to what we saw in the Continental Series, albeit with a few more incidents than we saw in that race, and especially more incidents off of pit road. And Eddie's been watching here. He's unfortunately still bolted down to the floor here in the studio, so he doesn't fly away. And hopefully he's here with us. Eddie, are you? Yeah, you're still here, right?
Yeah, I've been here. Okay, I guess I'm getting too skinny because now I'm turning invisible whenever I turn my ass sideways or something. Oh, I said a bad word there. That's unfortunate. Fight me, network. I don't care. Anyway, yeah, this has been interesting ways. Different amount of constructors are have been able to lead up front as well. As I can see on the big screen now, we are getting cautions, which.
Yeah, I was about to interrupt you. We might be getting our green flag cycle here. We'll let these guys continue on as we talk about the race so far.
Yep. I mean, I think what this race has had a little bit of everything. I say that a lot about a lot of races I watch. So far, we've had a flip, we've had a couple of wrecks, we've had some interesting things happen on pit road that has definitely changed this race. We've had. I think the bigger thing we could probably talk about is how we've had a lot of cars get taken out early due to really what was just engines that probably overheated in the 90-degree weather we've been having so far. So, as I hear
yeah, we mentioned
like,
the
metal things flying in the wind, we are getting...
Yeah, we mentioned the weather. We mentioned the weather earlier. We mentioned the weather earlier, and especially with the wind here, it's definitely picking up. As I think we look at the 72 with damage, I'm seeing another car coming in with smoke coming out of her hood. I think that's the 93 of Arena Tosaba. That's another issue that we'll have to look at after the show, as she just passed by us right there in the studio.
That's not good. Oh, they're
going under the hood. Probably that seems like a terminal issue for them. But yeah, as this green flag cycle goes on, I think this is our first of this race, actually. But yeah.
Oh, thank goodness we got at least one.
Yeah, in the Continental race, we saw that we had like half a cycle, I guess, in the early on, but that was interrupted by a caution. But yeah, as I was saying, we're having this green flag cycle play out. The 26 and 39 still haven't come in yet. I guess it makes sense for these two to stay out for now, given that they're pretty they seem to be comfortable with the way their cars are handling. I think most of these cars coming in are cars that are trying to play strategy gambits, maybe trying to fix up some of the handling issues they have with the car. That's another thing that's kind of been a note as we see the 26 coming in. Here we go, seeing some of the leaders come in now.
You know, I'm starting to think part of the strategy might also be expecting that there's going to be something happening off of pit road that could cause the yellow flag to come out.
Yeah.
Which might be why some drivers are staying out, but I think everyone's just coming in single file enough that it's probably not going to matter, which is going to benefit, I think.
Yeah.
The drivers undercutting.
I think maybe some of those teams up front saw that a lot of teams were taking early pit stops, and maybe they were just a little bit concerned that having so many teams come in at once would cause more problems coming out of pit road, because that is a theme we've seen all day today so far, is incidents off of pit road, which is but so far I think everyone's been able to behave themselves off on the exit of pit road, especially here. But before we, yeah, as I was saying before we got sidetracked, the strategy aspect of this race is cool. It's definitely interesting. I expect we'll see a similar kind of uh, evolution in terms of tire wear that we saw in the Continental race, where you take someone like the 26 here of Santos. She's going to lose quite a bit of ground. I think she's going to lose ground to a couple of drivers that came in early. Maybe not, actually. She seems to be coming out. We'll have to see. The standings are a little bit of a lagging indicator here. 39 is that 39 coming out. That might actually be an overcut. Not for now, but you know, that's a couple of laps difference. We'll see where the 39 filters on, whether or not she can catch up to the 26. But those two seem to be the class of the field right now. But yeah, as the run goes on, the 26 and 39 are in the best position to take advantage of those tires because they came in the latest. As we see,
I see smoke out of a car.
More
Something's
problems.
coming around the garage.
That might be another engine problem for one of the MBYW cars. That seems like, yeah, that seems like another engine retirement for them. I'll get back to you on that as well. But
I
yeah,
said all these nice things about them, and their cars. What a surprise!
But yeah, Eddie, what do you think of the strategy so far? And do you expect this green flag running to be more of to be the theme for the race as it goes on, or do you think we're gonna get those interrupted runs like we did in the first half with those cautions?
I would hope it's green flag runs. I think, you know, AWSCO has sometimes just had some issues with crash tests, but I think that green flag runs will help in terms of letting, I think, the teams and the drivers and the fans decide who are these really good drivers in the long run, which again could help at this point in the season because we're still trying to figure out who the front runners are. We're still trying to figure out who's maybe a one win and done otherwise. So I would hope for some green flag stuff. And in terms of strategy, I mean, I'm just kind of a do whatever the pack does. Not entirely. I don't want to say sheep because I feel like a lot of people do want to strike out and take a bit of a risk. But at the same time, with green flag, if there is the green flag runs that I hope for, you're not as much taking a risk as it is just determining whether to come down a lap behind the people you want to get ahead of or a lap ahead of them, and just sort of, I guess, crunching the numbers to see what will get you a better chance at either jumping in front of them or a pull or getting ahead via pass on the track and then pulling as far ahead as you can.
Yeah, and we're seeing that a little bit right now with that 32, who is pretty notably off cycle. You know, and if you're the 32 team, you're probably going to be wishing for a caution here because that will most likely, reset everyone's strategy and they'll find themselves in the front. But as ignoring the 32 is off cycle, the 26 and 39 are back in the lead, and those two cars. Oh, as I say that, the two of Bijavida just passed the 39 of Talberson. That's one of those cars that took advantage of the undercut, I believe. But yeah, the 26 and 39 have retained their positions, but their gap to the front, I think, has been lessened, especially with the 39. So I think that might be the undercut working there.
Javida, one of those drivers we talked about, kind of sitting near the bubble. This would be huge if he could get a win or even just hold this position. But
yeah, and Javida is another one of those drivers that we talked about in the pre-race, having a good run of momentum. You mentioned. And I think you mentioned how important momentum might be, or maybe it was in the booth actually, that mentioned the importance of that.
No, it was me. I'm gonna stand up for myself and say it was me.
All right, yeah, you mentioned how important momentum was for some of these teams, and I wonder, and the two has definitely been on the receiving end of positive momentum. So if this holds, it'll be another good result for them. I think if they could just continue notching down top 5s and top 10s, they should find themselves in a good position, at least points-wise, in the upcoming races.
But you also want to talk about momentum. Sophie Chantezay currently leading second to last in points in terms of drivers who have started every race, and yet she got 8th place last week at Phoenix, and now is looking at what might be a really good run here, although that 22 car is gonna
Yeah, I
try
think
and get around, as I see on the
yeah, we may be seeing the same thing happen here with the 26. The 26. I mean, we've seen this before. Sometimes I think we saw this with the 55 of Delabs, another driver who at the time of the Auto Club race was running very low on points, but in that race he just had one of the best cars in the field, managed to notch a win out. As we see here, they might be running 3 wide off of 4. Yeah, this will be a pass for the lead if Culberson can get this done. But yeah, if Shatose can at least lock down a good another solid result here, that might be the sign of better things to come for that team, because I don't think the Inverness cars have necessarily been bad on pace. As you can see as we saw with Yataka and the other car, that team definitely has the pace to be a consistent front runner. It just seems that whenever they have bad luck, it's really bad luck, as we as well saw with Yataka today. And I think Santos has just been on the receiving end of that bad luck more often than her teammate has.
Absolutely.
You see the 39 and 2 passing down the inside. And on that note, I think it would be a good time to segue to our FanDuel fan pick segment. I'll start with you, Eddie. Who do you have as one of your picks to win this race?
I mean, this kind of just go with anyone around, second through fourth probably is the best chance. If sure, maybe Nihale or Fleesenbach can maybe pull themselves into range, but at this point, again, it's going to need a caution and a lot of other stuff to happen. I'm going to go with Chanteze. I think tonight's the night she can finally put all those finishes outside the top 30 behind her for good. She'll get this win. It won't put her inside the top 20, but it'll at least lock her in for the playoffs. And we can see how things go there. I think she's probably someone trying to fight the hardest for it, so might as well get the win here. She's this close to it. I'm seeing 3 wide.
Yeah, that's 3 wide. I think these are all lap cars. I think I'm not sure how many laps down they are, but yeah, those are that was a little bit of hairy 3 wide racing behind the leaders. But yeah, I think you're right when you mentioned that it would probably be wise to pick one of the cars that are running up front right now. You could definitely go for a car that's running in the back half of the top 10. I wouldn't be surprised if you do get a caution and those cars start to contend for the win as well. But as things stand right now, I do think the cars in the top 4 are definitely the favorites to win, and I'm gonna go with the number 2 car of Isa Ijavida. We mentioned in the pre-race show and in this segment just now how important momentum is, and that 2 team has been riding up on good form for the last month or so, I think. And I do think that it's just a matter of time until they pull off a win in this run of form. And I do believe that this might be the race that they get that win out of the way, as the Honda cars do seem to have pretty decent pace. And she is at least the first car running on the main strategy, I should say, because the 32 is off cycle. All right, and with that, I think we'll take you back to the booth as Echo and Ludovic will also make their picks. And this has been the mid-race show. Thank you, everyone. And I'll be back on pit lane eventually to deal with some of the mechanical failures that we saw there. We'll have quite a few teams to talk to. All right, over to you, Echo again.
Lou, what's your pick? What do you got for your FanDuel fan pick?
I'm gonna be boring. I'm gonna pick the 30. I'm gonna pick the 32. He was leading. I think it's very much gonna be a race of whoever's up front. Well, then forget it. I'm changing my pick. You know who I'm picking? I'm picking Imperial Countess. There you go. I don't care. Oh God. Oh, that almost could have been very much worse. But yes, you know what? I'm changing my pick now that there's a caution. Imperial Countess should get her lap back somehow and get a And she's been very quick today, so can go back up the order and win. I think that's what's going to happen.
I'm going to go with the 39, Lily Talberson. Been very fast all race. She's looked like one of the strongest cars so far. I think this 39 car is the one that's going to take the victory here. She's just been very fast and strong and consistent, and she's just kind of always, she's just been there. So I'm going to take that 39. Well, you know, the good news is we didn't have a caution during the mid-race report. It just happened right after it. They waited for us, I think.
Yes. We were privileged with a caution.
So we're gonna watch these cars come down pit road. We're gonna see if we can get a replay of what occurred to bring out the yellow flag. The free pass car is the 72 of Janet Parkings. The 91 just barely beats the 26 out, and that means that the 91 is going to get waved around here. So Janet Parkings in the 72 will get the free pass. She's back on the lead lap. We're going to see what happens to the 34, Mika Harina. It's a car that's on a different lap than her Vancy, and Vancy just, I mean, she just comes up, and Vancy has nowhere to go. Oh, the 8.
Hopefully there's no damage. Oh, that doesn't look good. That way she was just going in a straight line for a long time. I wasn't.
Yeah.
That didn't look great. Maybe it's fine, but yeah, usually when a car does that, it's not normal behavior. I'll say this, at least it happened at the beginning of the... Actually, at least it happened at the beginning of the caution. That might not be a great thing, because now their tires are going to be scrubbed in a few laps, and there's going to be a few laps of difference between everybody's tires. So we might have a very interesting restart with a bunch of people that are just ever so slightly faster than others, which could give a... could give a bit of a hectic start.
Yeah. Rasha, what do you have on the 93 of Tosima and the 13 of Waterton? They both had engine issues.
Yeah, unfortunately, we may have lost Eddie here. I believe he's being evacuated for his safety. We might not see him for the rest of the broadcast, but yeah, concerns afoot at Mercedes-AMG here, as they just saw two of their cars have engine problems at approximately the same time. The 93, I believe the 93 was an overheating issue. That car's engine went up in smoke, I think, off of 3 and 4 somewhere, and that was just that car was absolutely smoking it out there on the pit lane. So that's definitely a concern for the cooling system on that car. And the 13, as for the 13, it was an entirely separate issue. I think they're saying that it's an issue with some of the pistons on the car. They definitely lost a couple of cylinders, and they were looking to possibly fixing the engine, maybe sending her back out there. But I don't think they were confident enough that car would have made minimum speed had they sent her out. So they decided to park the car, and that'll be the end of their race as well. One final note here: we were talking about strategy, and especially with the 32, was way off cycle there. That caution has greatly helped her, and now she's on pace. and now she has a golden opportunity to take advantage of this caution, and that also definitely helped the rest of the top 10 who were at the edge. Who were running about 10 seconds behind. So headed back to you here for the restart.
Yeah, we saw a lot of cars. We saw a lot of cars there get waved around. Apparently, they mistakenly waved the 62 around. So the 62 is being called in. So 62 is going to be going to be demoted a lap.
Great that they can do that with the tyrant systems. That was a bit of a hectic restart here. Everybody went too wide basically for the entire field, and there's a massive separation already. There's 3 big separations here. That's very interesting.
52, 8 car. They've both just been called in for penalties, it appears. The 2 of Ijavida now out front. So this will be, this will be an interesting run to the end, because there should be about, if they can go about 60 laps on fuel, 60, 65 laps. We just pitted at 204. That should be a 2-stopper, but that would mean the last run would only be about 10, 15 laps, so...
If I'm one of these teams, I think I'm trying to make it a 1-stopper. Like one of these more back of the field teams that haven't had a great race day, haven't been really quick. Trying to make it a 1-stopper and not stopping maybe at a caution if we get another one, but I do think, considering...
If you can make it all the way to... If you can make it 65 laps, you can maybe make it to the... You can make it to the end on... You can maybe make it to the end on 1-stop. It's very tight. Doing the math, give it... Say they pitted at 205. Add 65 to that, that's 270, and add another 65, that's 335. So that's just barely, that is literally 1 lap to the good. So
which I think could be good, but I wouldn't risk it if I'm in the top like 15.
Yeah.
But if I'm back, there's no point in just trying to make it on a 2-stopper and hoping that a 1-stopper doesn't work for anyone.
8 cars got back on the lead lap after that caution, and here's one of the cars that had that penalty earlier on. Had to come in, serve a penalty, fell a lap down for a good bit, got back in the lead lap, and now she's up here once again. Angeli Rigatino in the 96. She's had a great recovery. She's back up here.
Yep, and it was just a lap, so most of these cars that were a lap behind could make it back, and I mean that's the proof of it. And ultimately, that's the proof that basically what you do in the first half of the race, in 100% races like these, what you do in the first half of the race doesn't matter that much as long as you don't wreck out or get damaged. And that's what we're saying right now, because we're on lap 213, and the car that was a lap behind, and on lap maybe 70, back there, and they're going 3 wide here. That's around
the lap car. Whoa, the 71. 71 went to the grass there to dodge it being involved in anything, and I think that's a move. That is a move.
They're playing with fire when they're going to that grass. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
Yeah, I have to agree. That's a bit dangerous. Sky and Jetta did make up a lap there as they are going
4 wide.
4 wide. Oh, there was contact there.
I don't know why they decided to. Oh my goodness! They decided to go crazy in the past 5 laps, and
then those are all those cars. I don't think any of them are on the same lap here.
This is lunacy. but up front it's calmer. It's still very racy, but it's these are not going 3 or 4 and 5. Well, no, they didn't win 5-1, but 3 and 4-1.
31, Taylor Happerman, she's a lap down, but she's up here. She's with all these cars right here, so.
Good thing for her. She's in a good spot. I wouldn't want to be in the back where they're going crazy.
She's actually now on the lead lap at the very tail end of it, but she has unlapped herself right now. In the FanDuel car. As she battles along, but she's going to get put back a lap down. Here comes Talberson in the 39. And you know, a lot of the cars that we saw fall a lap down under that last green run have climbed back up here. Like the 91 took the wave around that last caution. 22 took the 22 took the wave around.
Which it's interesting. It's almost as if the entire front of the field sort of tripped all over themselves and let everyone at the back come back up, which is, I wouldn't have thought it would be a concern at a track like Texas, but it seems like it is. And in that case, I mean, if you don't, just do not do that. But it's not really what anyone can control. It's the crew chiefs they would have needed to tell themselves that before the race and to be careful with that sort of stuff. But right now it's a bit too late, really.
NordVPN fastest lap has not changed. Nihale has taken the lead now. The 64 coming in as the points leader, and once again running up at the front of the field.
If everyone trying to conserve tires and fuel until the end of the race, oh, that just clipped the back here. But yes, if everyone trying to conserve tires and fuel to make it a one-stopper, I don't think the fastest lap's going to be beaten.
Probably not. I think you're just,
unless we get a caution.
Yeah, unless we get a yellow for, you know, if we get a yellow out of cycle, I would say.
Yeah.
But if we go green all the way to the end, it becomes very dicey on whether whether you can even make it to the end.
What's interesting is that I don't know if I want to stay up ahead. I think I prefer being at the back of this leading group here. As long as it's I prefer being at the back of where what the leading group will be when we get to the caution, which we don't know what it will be yet.
I assume you mean the pit cycle, right?
Yeah, the pit cycle. Yeah. It's 11:30 here in Texas. Yeah, I mean, that's basically what it is. So when those cars come in, I just want to be at the end of that pack, which I mean, I don't want to assume anything because I don't want to jinx it, but it seems like it's going to be maybe the top 5, top 6 who seem to be able to pull ahead based on what the other cycles were able to produce. It seems like it's going to be between the top 3 and the top 6 that are able to pull a bit ahead.
Caution is out.
Well, that's
we
the
got
off
a
cycle.
car around. It is the 42, and the 8 is involved as well.
Wonder
Looks
if
like the 34 is involved too.
Wonder if the Hay didn't have handling issues, and that might have played a role in this.
The 31 actually just unlapped herself.
Congrats. That's good.
On pace there. She just barely beat the 91 to the line, and she just so she's unlapped herself. So 31 is now going to be scored is going to take this restart in the lead lap, and the free pass car is actually going to be the 71 of Abby Little now.
that might have. Also, I noticed some of the few cars that have been blocking everyone since the start of the race seem to be involved in that one. So we might get a few lapped cars that are very slow off the board here, which
Yeah.
will be good for the flow of this race.
Well, 91 came in as the leader. So we'll check and see what happened there. Yeah, the 71's kind of just pulling high. The 71 has to, because the 71 got waved around, she has to start at the tail end of the field.
Good to stay high. We see sometimes drivers staying low for some reason at some racetracks.
Yeah.
So it's good that it's just intelligent here. Hey, the 16. How many laps down she's now? Is she? Now?
She's going to be 5 down. Well, I think
Hey,
she's going to be back to 6 now because all the lap cars are going to pit here.
That's something. That's better than before. For her, obviously. So at least now the fuel concerns are off the board as well. So they can kind of push. Can't push too much because we're not that far off from.
Looks like nobody's gonna be. Looks like nobody's gonna get the wave around since the top 10 are all connected. So yeah, the 16 is actually going to remain 6 laps down because she came to pit road there.
All right.
The 34 apparently chose to retire.
I mean, she'd been running slowly beforehand, so there's no point if she already wrecked and has even more damage.
That's what happened.
That's. Yep.
And
I mean, it was going to happen at some point. There you go. There you see it. That's what I was concerned about. You see it. It just corrected to a straight line right before the impact, and
yeah, she must have been.
That's what I was concerned about.
She must have been having issues with her steering. Clearly on the brakes, just steering must have locked up or something. Well, that's gonna pretty much, yeah, that'll take the fuel mileage out of this, so it'll just be kind of a sprint to the finish here.
Which, if I'm one of these smaller teams with not as many resources, I don't know. I like this.
Yeah.
Because if it's only a sprint to the finish, it's pure pace. So those smaller teams usually don't have as much pace, and that Even if it's been a pretty top-heavy race anyway. So.
It's been pretty top-heavy. We've seen a few of the smaller teams get out front, but not really anything that's been not really anything that's particularly how do I say it? Been pretty top. We've seen a few slower of those smaller team cars up here towards the front, but not like a lot. 26 and the 2 have done a pretty solid job. So is the 38. So is the 20. So is the 72. Outside of that, I mean, it's pretty much all big name teams up here towards the front of the field.
Yeah.
Pace car's off. Here we go. Green flag is out. We are back we are back racing here in Texas, and I don't know. This race could go any way, I think. Anything could happen in this one.
It's gonna come down to whoever's in front in the final. Whoever's in the top maybe 15 in the final 50 laps and 5 in the last 10.
Yeah.
Probably can win this. But it's, yeah, it'll really depend on what happens in terms of when they catch those lap cars and separate those fields. But right now, I'd say everyone that's still on the lead lap has a chance at winning this, and that's gonna give an entertaining race.
So it's Alicia Byrne out front in the 91 car. Jocelynia Nahale in second. Davison, Ku, and Ijabe to make up the top 5. Bugatino, Rariston, Chantose, Halverson, and Handstrom is the top 10. I mean, another really good run for Nahale. You know, we keep making a big deal about it. You know, she's the points leader, you know. Nihal doesn't really ever, I can't really recall the 64 ever qualifying particularly amazingly, but she's always able to, you know, finish out the races pretty solidly. Or at least solidly enough to keep the points lead.
It doesn't, you know, it's very much about how you finish. I said she only has one outside of the top 20 finish, and that's where you lose your points, because usually when you're outside of the top 20, you're either at issues or retired.
Yeah.
So it's basically about keeping it clean, and usually, you know, if you're quick and if you're even slightly quick, a couple of races you'll be up front, and she seems to be pretty quick, so she's keeping it clean, and that's very much paying off.
I will say Alicia Byrne also kind of deserves a shout out. She's been running very good as well in the past few races. You know, she had a 3rd place finish in Denver, 9th place at Willow Springs. You know, she did fall to 17th last week, but
17th's not bad.
That's not bad. Yeah, she was the first car off the lead lap at Phoenix.
17th place finish. If you're able to get top 10s semi-consistently, that's good. Because you just need to make the playoffs. You don't need to be up front near the top positions. It's better to be up front near the top positions, but you don't need to. And if you're trying to, if you know that you don't necessarily have the pace to fight for the title in a strictly points competition, that it's good that you have that playoff thing, where you can just try to coast to the playoffs and then maybe be lucky a couple of times.
We saw Rigatino get to the lead very briefly there, and I mean, you know, for that 96 car, she's done a great job recovering from where she was, you know, a lap down for a good chunk of the race. She was at the back of the field because she kind of got mired behind some traffic, but she's moved her way back up. She's in 3rd. Watching these two battle for the lead in front of her. I think if I'm curious, though, I'm watching this 18. Because the 18 just got back in the lead lap not that long ago. And she hasn't really made a lot of moves. But she was very fast, and she was, you know, she had the pace to run with the leaders before. So, you know, if we get another caution, the 18 is able to jump some of these slower cars. I think the 18 is going to be one of those cars that you're going to want to look for as well.
Yeah, the issue now for the 18 and for a bunch of those cars in that second pack here that are starting to form is that the reason that second pack is starting to form is that we just have slowish cars for, you know, just cars that haven't been lucky and got a slight bit of damage in a collision or hitting a wall or anything, which is a type of collision. I don't know what I precise it, but yeah. So it's not really natural, and it's sort of it's gonna be harder for you to come back. But again, it's very much possible. I don't think we're gonna stay green until the end of this race. They just haven't been able to keep it green for more than between 50 and 70 laps, basically, for most of the time, 80.
Yeah, I mean, the longest green run we had was kind of right in the middle of the race. Like, we've had, I guess it's not like, it hasn't been a pure wreck fest. That's the thing, is this race hasn't had a lot of incidents, but they've been more spread out than anything. Like,
well, it has had quite a few incidents. It's just, basically the reason these incidents happen is because these cars handle badly when they're on old tires, and we have a massive headwind in turn 2. Except for that last caution, basically every single incident today has been out of turn 2. So it's not really just a question of it's not really a question of anybody's ability or anything, or just the people running stupidly today. It's just the way it's just physically, basically, mathematically improbable for a car of between 40 and 20 cars, competitive cars, just to hit the wall like they do at the end at the end of their run every single lap for multiple of them, and not have some sort of spinner or a collision or something that causes a caution. So that's why I think we're gonna get another one. It just seems unlikely that we're gonna stay green magically for 100 laps now.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I just think, with the way that they've been running, with how far they've gone through in these runs, I don't know. I feel like we're bound to get another caution. I guess it's just kind of more of a question of when are we going to get that next caution. Because, the later that next caution is, the further that makes it, maybe you don't have to pit under green. Maybe you'll have to, maybe you just,
They pitted what, 220?
225, something like that.
So I think that when they get a caution, when they get the next caution, should probably be between maybe laps 270 and maybe 290, something like that. Because it's just at the end of the cycles all of the time. They don't wreck when they're on fresh tires. As I say that, they almost wrecked when they were on fresh tires.
Well, the aggression's,
see that,
the aggression's going up there a little bit.
Yeah, they're starting to.
If we get a yellow, say around 260 to 265, that's where it's going to get really interesting, because that's just on the edge of the fuel window. So 65 laps, I'm saying, is going to be about the maximum you'll go on fuel. But, being just on the edge of the fuel window would be interesting, just because, if you pit around if it's around 260 to 265, that's when you're going to see, a lot of interesting strategy being called. Some teams may try to save fuel. Some teams may try to just go for it and just kind of, early pit the final stop. We thought we were going to see something like that in the Continental race, but it ended up just being that everyone who came to pit road just pitted for 4 tires at the end.
I mean, the thing is, I'm not sure that when we get to that final 30, 40 laps, we're gonna stay green, because they've already been on the limits of wrecking for the past, in the first 50 laps and in the past 50. Just because they're getting more aggressive, and they were more aggressive at the start. So I think if they're continuing to get more aggressive as we get closer to the finish, we're gonna see quite a few wrecks at the end of this race, and this might turn into a bit of a wreck fest at the end. We don't want that, but I mean, if they continue on this path of getting more and more aggressive, like they've been since maybe lap 150, it just seems to be it's bound to be what happens. I'll say this race has been, while we've been discussing about possible cautions, this race has been very entertaining. They keep
They've been
switching
going.
around.
They've been getting all over the place around here. Andrea Davison out front in the 22. The 10 car of Audi Stoneman has been pretty slow. Has not been able to keep up with pretty much the rest of the pack. I'm not sure if something's up on the 10, but that car does not look as fast as it was before.
That's unfortunate for Red Racing, because they were really good looking at some point of the race.
Yeah. They do have another... Red Racing does have a car in the lead. There's 22 cars in the lead, and the 23 of Yappe Malikson is back here, just trailing the top 10.
Which is, I think, where you want to be at this point.
Yeah.
Just hanging back there, not pushing too much, avoiding to... If you're in the front, that's... When those lap cars are going to come back around, that's another factor we haven't talked about. Yeah, when you're at the front and those lap cars come around, that's it's the most risky of being stuck behind one of those lap cars and losing a bunch of positions. And that's a factor these drivers need to take into account. And I think that timing when the lap cars are gonna hit the pack is kind of a hard thing to do. But at this point, the lap times have been the same for 100 laps, so I hope they'd have good estimates of when that would happen.
Yeah.
So I think it's very much a question of just telling the driver to push right at the exact moment that it needs to.
I'm going to point out as well, the 71, Abby Little, she got the free pass on this last caution. She's actually doing pretty solid for herself right now. She's scored an 11th right now, battling with the 62 there. 31 as well, who actually raced her way back over the lead lap, is actually behind the 71 who just got the free pass. So I think that's a bit of an interesting, kind of funny storyline, is that the 31, the car that was so fast she actually managed to drive her way back from the lead lap, is behind the car that was given the lap back.
Which is interesting, because it just proves how this racetrack works. It's that you get, for some reason, the driver might not even know why, but for one cycle, you could get very lucky with your positioning, and being very quickly thus. So, but then on the next one, you're just, man, you're back to where you are, where you would normally be. So it's not a question real. I don't think that the 31 was exceptionally quick. I just think that she was the right car at what moment, and that because we've seen other cars being very quick this race, and able to raise their way up to the front. And if there was a caution, it would have been lucky. It's just that the 31 was the one that got lucky with the caution at the right moment. But it's still an interesting thing. It's not a bad storyline. Okay, we like 4 storylines. We're crazy.
Yeah. The 22 of Davison still out front. Talberson in second. Third is actually Rugatino, because the 16, running up here towards the front of the field. Funny enough, the 16 actually gained a position when they lapped the 21 last time around. Last time that they lapped the 21 car, the 16 actually picked up a position. So the 16 car is no longer last on the track.
Which is so unfortunate, man. That car has been genuinely, with maybe the 39. They two have been the cars that have run the most up front today. Maybe the 26 also. Like, these 3 cars have run out from most of this race. And it's just so unfortunate that the 16 had that issue, because otherwise she could have battled for the racing.
She could have battled for the win, yeah. She would be battling for the win right now, I think. But, you know, she's doing a very solid job right now. Just kind of sitting here. She's doing her best. Just running up here with everyone else. Halverson back to the front. She's got Rugatino following her. Wouldn't it be a storyline if either of these two drivers won at Texas? That'd be a pretty big deal. You know, considering how they've painted the walls here.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be a bit obvious.
Yeah, that's fair. 71, Abby Little is up into 8th spot now. So, you know, she's having a great, you know, comeback here. I don't even know how many laps down she was, but she was a few down. And she's managed to recover all the way back up into the top 10. So, you know, I think it's just kind of showing that, you know, how well, you know, how you can just kind of get back into this thing. It doesn't take a lot, but you can do it. You can just run right back into this race. We're starting to reach the edge of the fuel window. I think, you know, so, you know, we'll say it's about 65 laps max. So that would put us about lap 269 at the, you know,
Nice.
the furthest edge you could get to on the fuel window.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah, lap 2. But honestly, if you're lasting up to lap 269, you're really like edging it out a lot. You're really going to the tip of your fuel tank.
Shut up. Halverson still out front, battling Rugatino. These two fighting for the lead as Nihil sits behind these two in third. Happeman is up to 4th. 31 is back up here.
Yeah, and I mean, it's interesting. They've gone. This it looked very aggressive for the first 10 laps, but after lap maybe like 240, they've just went into a straight line for most of the field, and except when they're trying to make an overtake, they're not going double wide at all.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I don't know if they're fuel saving, because that kind of looks like a fuel saving strategy to me.
It might
But-
honestly be fuel saving. I wouldn't be surprised if they were fuel saving.
I guess maybe they think the overcut's the good strat, so they're all trying to overcut each other.
Maybe. I guess the more fuel you save, you know, the more you'll have if we get, you know, a late restart. And, you know, you kind of need to abuse that fuel. But I guess also, you know, that's, if you're saving fuel, that's a little less time you have to spend in the pits fueling up. It's not really that much. It's like a fraction of a second, but sometimes fractions of a second are all that matters.
Well,
Okay,
in the pits, yeah, it matters a lot, a fraction of a second, because the gaps are so low when you come out of the pit lane.
Nihil now out front once again. And yeah, the NordVPN fastest lap still has not changed.
I mean, if they that'd be another proof that they could have been fuel saving.
I mean, they're not gonna be setting fast laps right now, because, you know.
Well, not right now, but
Tires are pretty
you know,
worn
if
out.
they, you know, right after the restart happened, that they could have,
Yeah.
but they didn't.
They didn't. You know, we're just at, you know, the very top of the fuel window here, and so now if a caution comes out, I think everyone's coming in.
Surely, I mean,
If a caution, yeah.
if unless, well, maybe after lap maybe 300 that wouldn't be the case, but until lap 300, whenever a caution comes out, you need to come in.
Well, yeah. I mean, if a caution comes out on this run, and that's obviously assuming we don't get a green flag cycle.
Well, even if we get a green flag cycle, I think you still come in. There's a big tire advantage at the end of this of the rounds.
Yeah, that's true.
They wash up a lot on this racetrack.
Look at the 31. Taylor Happerman's taking the lead.
Hey. Well, she still has a bit of pace.
Yeah, she's still got pace. You know, she was literally, you know, she raced her way back on the lead lap. Literally drove her way back onto it. Now she's battling for the lead, but she's fighting with Youngwei Koo in the 38 car. We could have gotten a bit of a different bunch of cars up at the front now. Halis Jukovic is up here in the 62. That's the Daytona winner, and I mean, there hasn't really been a lot to talk about for Jukovic this season apart from Daytona, but she did have that race last week at Phoenix where she led 159 laps.
Yep.
More than half the race, but she didn't even get a podium finish to speak of for it. She ended up 6th.
I think what we're seeing right now is the drivers who sort of saved a little bit their tires early in the run, really making a push there, right before they come to the pit lane, which is very smart.
Yeah.
That's a good jump for them.
Yeah, I think I have to agree. I mean, you know, they're doing a great job just kind of managing, everybody's kind of doing a good job just managing their equipment right now. And I mean, with everyone kind of bunched together like this, we got more cars kind of held together at the moment.
I don't know if the winds have come down, but I've not seen a lot of people hitting the outside wall this tent.
Yeah, I haven't either. Maybe they're just kind of not pushing it though.
That
we
could be
should
what
see
they're
them come in about 10 or so, 10 to 15 laps, just because, you know, that'll be about 60 to 65 laps after they pitted. They pitted at 225. We're 275 now, so, you know, 10 to 15 laps more. I think that's when we're going to see. So I think that's when we're going to see them come in for their final stops. I mean, nobody's coming in right now. I guess the big ask here really is, how much do you want to undercut it by?
I don't... The thing is, I don't even know if you want to undercut it, because the tires are going to be quite worn down at the end of this. It's not like it's gonna be. It's not like it's gonna be an hyper short final run. It's still gonna be
a pretty long final
50
run.
laps.
It's gonna be a pretty long final run. I'm not sure undercutting is the way to go.
So, I mean, especially if everyone's pushing at the end, you're gonna get in quite a risky situation in the last 10 laps.
Yeah.
Well, and it would be the boring outcome, but what we might see is basically everyone coming in on the same lap or the same 2 laps, because there is just such a risk to overcutting or undercutting.
Yeah.
Here.
I mean, we saw in the Continental race yesterday where, you know, Jet Brackett only really just barely held on. Brackett, you know, had that undercut, and I think they pitted with about 20-25 laps to go. Russia, what do you have from the teams on this final run strategy?
Yeah, we've been talking to a couple of teams here, but we've especially gotten quite a bit of insight from the 71 team of Abby Little. That's a team that's kind of been battling away all over the field as throughout the length of this race. Right now, they're pretty confident that the way to go is to pretty much emulate what Vinny Schultz did in that last race. To stay out a little bit longer, and stay out a little bit longer and pit in a bit late for that final stop, just to make sure you have those tires at the end of the run. They're expecting that with a approximately 50 lap final run here, though the cars that do an overcut are going to be at an advantage at the end of the race. And I'm pretty sure most of the some of the other teams that I talked to earlier are also thinking about the same. So I think the expectation is that the race will go green for the duration, and we won't, and that tires at the end of the race will matter greatly for the getting the win here.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, you gotta strategize these tires just right. I mean,
Definitely.
the later you pit, the later you take tires. That's, you know, less laps that are gonna be on your tires when you're going for the race win.
I will say it's interesting that Sletto's apparently trying to do an overcut because she's in the group of drivers that's really more pushing towards the end now.
Yeah.
So maybe she just saved a lot early on to the run.
Uh-oh.
She had to come down. Oh no!
Oh,
well,
she's slow.
not gonna save now.
That is a major issue for the 71. That
Oh
car
my
is
god!
pulling down onto the apron.
Maybe she just pushed too much.
Yeah.
Man, that's tough. She had to come
That's
back.
rough.
And everything.
She had that great comeback. She just got the free pass, and all for naught now. It's about the same spot we saw in Jeddah. Had that issue before, so I just got a feel for Little there. She was running really good, and that happens.
That's another car that's not now in the leading group, and that leading group's of now 6 cars is only a second, 2 seconds kind of on the second group, and I'm thinking if that second group goes one line, they're not gonna catch the entire gap before the cycle. But they could, you know, cut, you know, back a second maybe. Because that group's not gonna be very quick.
Russia, what happened to the 71?
And just like that, the 71 team's plans are thrown out the window as, oh, I think I saw the 22 hit a wall there. Anyways, yeah, the 71 team's plans have just gone out of the window as Abby Little was reporting a tire going down into turn 1 there. So good work keeping the car facing the right way as she was running on 3 tires there. But at the same time, a real unfortunate stroke of luck there for that 71 team, who were running really well, and rather surprised. And once again, rather surprised that they didn't call the caution there. But that seems to be the protocol in the official booth, not to call the caution if the car is parked on the apron on the backstretch. So I guess they're being very consistent about that. I'll head back to you now for the final run.
I know if I like.
Go ahead.
I don't know if I like it that they don't call it caution, because I get it there. It's out of the racing distance. It's definitely out of there, and there's a marshal entry, not that far back. Oh well, at least the 71's out on track, even if it's gonna be quite a few laps back. But yes, I don't know if I like it, because at the time they're recovering that vehicle, it's just there. It's just directly on the racetrack, and we've seen, especially on the backstretch, we've seen those hits, those spins out of turn 2. And if there's a car that just spins in the wrong direction, yeah, I don't know if that's a great call for them. The AWSCO officials are not. They're kind of they're a bit superstitious in a way. I feel like they tend to play a bit old timey, and I don't know if that's a great call in these days.
Halverson out in front of Happelman, Jukovic, Davison, and Koo. We have in Jeddah in this group right here.
The second group has made back quite a bit here. Has made it back.
Yeah, that group back here is kind of, you know, the lead pack is kind of split up like a lot.
Yeah, It's I'm guessing maybe with the tires that are completely dead, because we haven't seen tires really this dead. Well, we've seen them once, basically, this entire race. I'm guessing when the tires are completely dead, the draft just doesn't have much of an effect anymore.
There we
There you go. There,
31 and 22
the
are
cycle
in.
begins.
Cycle
That's
finally
late.
begins. 64, 20, 91 looks like she's coming in. Yeah, I mean, you know, they're just. I think they tried to run it as far as they could in terms of overcut, and it's just like, you know, they just know that how much the tires matter at the end. So you're trying to run it as far as you can on that overcut. "19, Handstrom is in. 2 of Javida is in. Yeah, Talberson's still out there. You know, for these 3 cars that are still out on the track, as top 3, you know, Ferreriston, Chantose, Malikson, all, you know, still out on track. So Ku's coming to pit road this time. 38's in. 23, I believe, is coming in. Yep. 32 is in as well.
Currently not as much of a spread as we've seen in the other green flag stuff.
Not as much of a spread, but there is still a spread.
It's interesting. You're staying out? No, okay, no.
39's pitting. She's just really aggressive on the entry here. 62 is in. I believe the 26 is going to be in. I think that's it. I think that's all the cars. That's all the cars.
That's
Well,
all the
what's
important
39?
one, isn't it?
"39 in her pit stall now. They made it 70 laps on that run, so
Yeah, they went full saving for like 40 laps though, so
yeah.
that's why. But now at least we're sure we're not gonna get any fuel issues at the end of this.
39 is going to really drop back behind a bunch of these cars, though, I think. Yeah, there's the 31, then the 91.
Yep, but she's
Leave
gonna
the
have
31's going to cycle to the lead here.
she's gonna have, well, you know, tires that are, you know, more than 5 laps fresher
Yeah.
at the end of this. So after it's gonna be about 40 laps when we come to the end of this race. The difference of 5 laps is a lot.
3.5 seconds now is the gap there.
How many? Who's the 31 with?
That's who she's with. She's with some of these lap cars. 31's kind of split apart from the rest of this group because she's with these
Well-
lappers. I think the 31 pitted the earliest.
That's gonna be interesting. Because if these lappers are quick enough, the 31's not gonna be within reach without a caution.
Yeah.
And it could be a strategy of the century here.
31 did gain time that time, but also these cars back here were battling each other.
To be fair, the car she's with are not on the lead lap, so they wouldn't battle as hard as now. They're battling for second place, so I don't expect them to stop battling, which would be detrimental. But at the same time, they're not in 40 laps gaining 4 seconds on pure speed. They would need
I
something
mean,
to happen.
They could.
How much
I don't
time
see
in
it.
the Continental race did the cars have pitted in after gain?
They gained about 2-3 seconds in they gained about 2 seconds in 20 laps. So
Interesting.
I think their tires were a tiny bit fresher though. They were like 5-10 laps fresher, I think.
I mean, it's not really about how fresh the tires were. It's about how much they, how big the spread is.
Yeah.
Was it like similar? But the 31's still gaining time.
Yeah, 31 continues to gain time here, so...
Because if it's 2 seconds in if it's 2 seconds and 20 laps now, they're gonna need to be a bit more quicker than that, because
Yeah.
it's up to 4.5 seconds, and there's only 35 laps left now. Well, less than 35.
34 to
coming
go.
more
34 to
30.
go. That's 34 to go now, yeah. I mean, here's the thing. If I'm the 31, I'm just kind of hoping that these lappers that are behind me don't try and pass me. Because, you know, if you get shoved to the outside lane, that's what's going to hurt.
Well, I don't know if they have the pace for that.
Yeah.
What I'm more worried about the 31 is that there's a pack just in front of her. That if they catched it,
That could slow her up, yeah.
yeah, that's the bigger issue for me. That those lap cars are, you know, they're not off the pace enough that they're going to be an issue, but they're not quick enough that they're going to just keep battling with her. And at least I don't believe so.
Maybe.
Otherwise, they would have already battled with her when they had fresher tires.
One's staying on the outside here.
To be fair, she was basically box 10, so...
Yeah, that's true. That is letting these cars back here close, though.
Yeah. And they're not... The issue is they're not really gaining as much time as they were losing.
Yeah.
But that could change very quickly. So, we'll see, but... Also, this is only a 4-car train, and I think the other one's more cars. That might have also a row.
6 cars here.
That could have a row.
Although I believe this 9 is a little off the pace, so it's more like 5 cars in this group. Yeah, they didn't really gain that much. The 31's just going to blow by these cars again.
Yeah. Oh, that's a big gap for the 31 now. The worst thing for the 31 would be to get, you know, fast enough to get out of that 4-car group. But, yeah, because if that happens, that means you just have no partners.
Yeah.
I don't know if it'll happen, but could, because the 26,
this
the
group is definitely
91 and the
this group
18
is
doesn't
definitely
seem
catching. This group is definitely catching back up to her.
Yeah.
This group gained that last lap, but they were also, you know, battling each other doing that. So. I would say, you know, the best chance for any of these cars to get by that 31 is if a caution comes out. If we get a yellow,
yeah, obviously.
Yeah, if we get a yellow, that will put everything, you know, that's gonna swap everything around.
Yeah, if we get a yellow, the 31 is just it's screwed. Because it'll be on older tires, except if they all come down. But I mean.
Yeah.
If there's a caution that comes out now, I think everyone comes in. Just because you would have quite a bit of an like I think there's not enough cars that are not on the lead lap to really there's enough cars, I mean, that are not on the lead lap to make it so the battle for the race lead would not really be would not really be like 30 cars. It'd be probably more like what, 15, 20,
Yeah.
and that can easily go down with some slower cars or that get at naturally, that wouldn't naturally be able to get the race lead. And then if you have maybe, let's say, 10 cars that could be competitive for the race lead, if you're one of if I'm the 31 and there's a caution right now, I think I'm able to overtake 10 cars with fresh tires.
Yeah.
I definitely think so. So I'm pitting in.
These cars are
there's not even
closing
a
up
question.
now. They're starting to gain a little more time. It's down to 3.8 seconds. Got about 20 some laps to go. About 23 to go, I think.
That'd be a
that's the
big
number.
stretch to gain that much, and it's not impossible, but it'd be.
I mean, yeah,
It'd
the
be a heck
31's
of a
been slowing
performance.
up pretty considerably, though.
She was on the outside though,
She was on the outside, yeah. Oh, they lost time that time.
and now
It's down to 4.0
yeah, they're
again.
not. I think the only reason they're gaining considerable time is because she's on the outside sometimes. But
Well,
then she just
sometimes I think
regains
as well is that, you know, when she gets out in front of this group, she loses arrow. You know,
Yeah, but they don't gain
lose
that
the
much
draft.
from her losing arrow. They gain maybe half a tenth. Like when she's on the outside, they gain maybe 2/10. If I'm at 31, I don't know if I'm just. If I'm at the 31 Scoochies, I think I'm telling her, just stay at the back. You don't need to fight them. What's the purpose of this?
They are going to catch this lap car, the 21, who's a bit slow.
That
She's been slow pretty much all
could be a
race.
problem.
This could be where it happens.
Oh, that won't be good. That'd be in turn 3. Yeah.
Yeah, she caught her right in the middle of the corner. That's not going to help. Not at all. That is definitely going to check her up quite a bit. The thing is, now these cars also will have to get through the 21 here eventually.
And probably more towards the end of the race than the.
Wow, she actually didn't even lose time there.
Okay, I'll call it. Unless there's a caution, I think it's over. I genuinely think there's no way, because they're not gaining time.
I guess unless
The
there's
gap
a
is-
yellow or she has a mechanical issue.
Yeah, unless there's a caution or there's, some kind of issue. It's not happening because there's just not losing time. Actually, oh, that's 77.
It's being boxed in behind the 72 right now.
72, I mean. Yeah, that 72 might make her lose time, and if that 72 makes her lose enough time that she's off that draft, no, she'll stay in there. That might have been the last opportunity.
They only gained a very tiny bit. Yeah, I mean, you got to hand it to the 31 for that strategy call, though. I mean, it's been a very up and down race. You know, she was a lap down for quite a bit. And
Hey, she went there on speed. It's totally deserved. It's not just a strategy call. It's really just her
she
that
drove her way back up onto the lead lap. You know, on pure pace.
yeah. She basically gained 2 laps on basically everyone, and then had a good strategy.
Yeah, these cars are being held up by the 21 now.
Well, it'll be interesting, the battle for second place, because all these cars now, they can go off on each other.
Yeah. Whoa, the 72!
Oh
Whoa!
no! We need to be careful.
Is that going to be the caution?
I think she'll get to the apron. Maybe.
Yeah, the 72 will get to the apron. They're not going to call the yellow for that.
Wow, well. Seems like they're trying to throw everything the world's trying to throw everything at the 31 to not have her win, but she's just not losing time, and now she just gained a bunch because that car was a
Yeah. So Happeman out front in that Ozark car. I mean, we saw her teammate Dira Reister involved in that incident earlier where she went upside down. And, you know, for Happeman, I guess it's a tale of two races for Ozark Motorsports.
well, you can't really get everything.
Checked out the wall there. I guess it doesn't matter. Oh shit,
Yeah,
what
that's
happened to the 72?
Yeah, Echo, that was just a big engine failure on the 72. They're currently still towing it back to the box right now as we speak. So it's gonna be a little bit until the team is able to take a look under the hood, but they're not expecting much to be able to be fixed, especially this late in the race. So I'm going to assume that they're going to park the car right there, and that'll be the end of Parking's race. But at the same time, I do find it interesting that they did not call the caution for that either. I think that one is definitely a perplexing decision, but at the same time, I guess they're being consistent here, not calling cautions on the apron. But nevertheless, bit of a concern, I think, that they're choosing not to do that.
We've reached our Windows 11 to go. Kayla Happerman out front by 5.9 seconds over Andrea Davison, Lily Talberson, Youngwei Koo in fourth, and Arlen Hanstrom in fifth. Excuse me.
I'll say this: I'm surprised there's not oil on the racetrack from that massive engine failure.
Yeah,
It's
me
like,
too.
it's a good thing.
Excuse me. Jeez, I don't know what's going on.
Must be the wind. Yeah, I mean, hey, in front of a massive crowd here in Texas.
Yeah, they turned out here for AWSCO
them.
action.
I mean, everyone in Texas loves women's sports. It's known. But yeah, the 31. I'm just noticing this. The 31's literally lapping faster than the 39 and the 22 and whoever. I know they're battling back there, but they're also battling at the front here, and the 31's just faster. It's incredible.
Yeah, they just must have made some sort of adjustment on that last stop that just really gave them the speed on this last run, because I'm pretty sure she pitted earlier than the rest of those cars.
And that'll only be her second top 10 of the season. So it's yeah. I mean, hey, it's at least there's gonna be one bright spot in this season of AWSCO Motorsports.
Yeah. She can hang on, which looks like she's gonna do.
Well, she's got. Even if there's a caution, I mean.
We could get a restart.
Yeah.
But it would be a very short one.
Because.
5 laps
I'll
to
wait
go.
until lap 31 to 331. Is it me, or does she have a bit of damage on her race car too?
She has a little damage, but
Yeah, so it's hey, she drove back with damage too. That's wow. I'll say this: that now we're on lap 331, and I don't think we can get a restart in. Honestly, I don't see how she could.
got the wall there.
Yeah, I don't see how she could lose this. Like it's And honestly, I didn't see how she could lose this since lap 300. She was just, the gap never got closer. They
Yeah.
came out at about what 3.5 seconds, I
3.5.
think it was.
Yeah, and
And
now it's
then
5.2 now.
well, yeah, because she had the wall, but like it never got back to that 3.5 mark. It
Yeah.
just kept going up.
I mean, yeah, she's just been that fast.
Yeah.
71 car, I believe, just came to pit road. I think she ran out of fuel. Yep, 71 is on pit
Interesting.
road. Now remember, she did pit a little bit earlier than everybody else because of that tire issue.
I mean, even so, I wasn't. This shouldn't have been that much earlier. That shouldn't have been enough to. Maybe they just didn't put on enough fuel. Maybe they just tried to
Under fuel.
cut their losses.
White flag, 1 to go for Taylor Happerman. She just kind of showed up in this last run. She had a big lead and she did not relinquish it. Well out in front is Taylor Happerman. Gonna keep the lap cars behind her. Just gonna cruise to the finish here in this one. Taylor Happerman will take the victory at Texas. And the first for Chevrolet this season.
Final gap, 5.13 seconds, and I think that might be one of the bigger stories coming out. Just the speed in that car.
Yeah.
But hey, there's a few teams that come out of this race with a big smile.
Yeah.
Like for example, if I'm Red Racing, if I'm Evans Ross Racing, my cars were up front for most of the day. I'm happy.
Yep.
Even if it wasn't the best result, it's like there's clearly enough speed in those cars.
Yeah, no, definitely, you know, there was a lot of speed that a lot of these drivers had, and did the 22 blow up after the checkers? I think she did. So this is after the flag. Oh, there it goes.
Yep.
Wow.
Might have, considering they're slowing down, might have just switched to gear too early.
Yeah.
Those things happen. Over revving the engine.
I mean, she still finished third there, but she still finished third, but there's gonna be a bit of scrutiny over that car, I think, in the inspection office.
Yeah, they were really quick before that last run, so I don't know what
Yeah.
happened.
That engine just, I don't know if that engine went or if that was a bit of a intentional sabotage there, but it's not our move to
Yeah.
to
You know
speculate.
who we didn't see a lot of today?
Who?
Mason Parker Motorsports.
Yeah, I mean, the 18 was at the front for a bit, but that's about it. That was really all we saw.
Well, we had like
Well-
maybe 50 laps.
I guess the 91 was up there for quite a while. But I mean, yeah, I gotta
Yeah.
agree. I mean, I've got to agree. You know, we didn't really see a lot of the heavy hitters in this race. You know, we had one of those small team end up winning with Taylor Happerman in the 31. So
This is interesting because Texas is one of those more regular racetracks that we're gonna see quite a lot in the calendar. So that might have some indications to what's coming next.
yeah. All right. Well, we're gonna send you back to the FanDuel Fan Studio with Arashia. What's your recap on this one post race? And we'll have Lou dial in we'll have Lou dial in from up here in the booth as well. What's your perspective?
Yeah, well, I guess we'll start off with the Mason Parker cars. They weren't exactly I think Ludovic was right when she said they weren't as prolific, I should say, as they usually were, running, in the top 5 and challenging for the win. But despite that, as a whole, I think they had a pretty solid race. All 4 cars, 3 of the 4 cars on the lead lap, albeit 2 of them at the end of the lead lap. And Carly Byrne was, I believe, Alicia Byrne, I should say, was the first car 1 lap down, I think, running right behind the 31. So yeah, a relatively solid race, but nothing too spectacular for them, which is a little bit uncharacteristic. Usually, you're seeing them have flashy races where they're running up front. One of their cars running up front, but their other cars are having problems, especially with the 91. But yeah, solid race overall for them, I think.
The thing is that basically most of the other big teams were up front at some point had demonstrated their speed. They didn't, and I think the reason most of the cars finished that well was just because of attrition. It was a crazy race in terms of attrition. We had I don't even know how many mechanical failures we had. I think we had something like maybe 6 or 7.
Yeah, we had a lot of mechanical failures. Not as many, I wouldn't say as many terminal failures as we usually do, but we had a lot of non-terminal ones, and that kind of resulted in a lot of cars running 3 to 6 laps down, I think. And that's what really what's really played a role, I think. Non-terminal attrition, definitely a big thing, a big part of this race, I think. That might just be because of the tire setups, or maybe even the weather. As we said, it is rather hot out today. And that definitely bit a few teams, especially with their engines. We saw double DNF for ABYW, other teams having problems. So potentially that might be something that the teams weren't as prepared for.
And you need to keep in mind that those teams, because of the wind, were hitting that outside 2 wall a lot. And when you're hitting the wall, it doesn't just affect a bit of aero; it affects a bit of engine. It shakes the entire car down. It affects the chassis. It affects the whole car. So if you're hitting a few times that wall, it can just have a really big impact on the car and have those kind of small mechanical failures that are not terminal, but that are still significant.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with that. And we mentioned, that was something we mentioned in the pre-race show. We thought we would see cars hitting the outside walls on the exits of 2 and 4 quite a bit, and that's exactly what we saw. We saw more incidents come out of the narrowing out of 4, but we saw a lot of cars hitting the wall out of 2, and just kind of keep going. I do wonder if some of those contacts led to maybe a part coming loose here and there, and just that resulted in what I like to call a latent failure, where it just kind of builds up and causes a more perceptible failure later on in the race.
Yeah,
I do wonder if that was also something that may have resulted in the tires. We'd love to see what the data says in terms of what tires failed, but we had quite a few tire failures, which is interesting.
Well, I think the issue with the tires, it's just they were kind of the tires seem to just be behaving weirdly for the entire race. They kind of had that sort of normal wear, which is washing up to the outside, but it sort of stopped at one point. I just saw that. It was really between laps maybe 50 and 70 of a run that you really had the tires washing up to the outside, but then it just stopped. They just didn't have. They were slower, but they didn't. The tires were controllable.
Yeah.
I just don't think that the Goodyear made their tires made the tires efficient for this racetrack, or at least this racetrack in these conditions, which are pretty unique.
Yeah, that might have definitely played a role as well. I think you mentioned just the incidents at the end of the runs. That may have been cause of why. Maybe cars were struggling for handling on tires. We saw a couple cars have tire blowouts. I do wonder if maybe the weather the weather did have a big effect on that, and it just manifested in a way that wasn't as obvious as we usually see. You know, when we usually think of extreme weather in these races, we usually think of the wind causing cars to come loose and crash. But maybe here it was a little bit less pronounced, but definitely played a role in it.
And we're getting word in the comment box here of well, on the screens actually they're showing that 90 lead changes today. That's the AWSCO historical record that has now been set at 90 lead changes in this race, which is a lead change every what, 4 laps, 3 laps?
I want to say somewhere around there. We're at about 34, so I think just over every 4 laps, I would say.
Yeah.
I'll have
Well,
to double-check
and
the
if
numbers on
and
that.
if you remove those final 50 laps where we had none, that's
Yeah, just
basically
under 3
literally
laps. Just under 4 laps, I should say. But
Yeah.
very. I think
So
the
if-
strategy definitely played a role in that, considering how many
yeah.
how many cars we had coming and going through the runs, especially early, especially through that middle to end part of the race where we had a long green flag run. That was definitely, I think, where a lot of those came from.
I think it's not even that much the strategy more than it's just the fact that these drivers were just getting those massive runs. It's just there's a lot of luck involved in this, and it makes it so these drivers have those big runs even though they're not that quick. Some of them were that quick, but we saw it with the 31. But some of them weren't, so they just went up, and then after maybe 20-something laps hanging around in the front, they just went back, and new drivers came back up. It was a very interesting dynamic.
Yeah, certainly with that. Certainly with the dynamics of the race, I think it was really interesting. Well, we'll take you back to the booth with Echo for her closing statements, and with that, I've been Russia, and it's been a pleasure having you in the studio, everyone. I'll see you next week at Bristol. Take it away, Echo.
Yeah, we got Bristol next week. That's going to be a very, very fun race. It's going to be very different from this kind of racing. You know, we've had a lot of, fast tracks lately, but Bristol's going to be different. Bristol is all about getting to the bottom. Bristol's all about just holding your line, and it's just about, you got short track bump and run kind of style racing at Bristol. So that should be fun to see these drivers kind of take on that kind of a track for the first time. With that being said, this was a great race. We had a record number of lead changes, 90 lead changes. Congrats to Taylor Happerman on the victory. I'm Echo on behalf of Lou and Rasha. Thank you all so much for watching the AWSCO HEB 500 from Texas. We're signing off. Have a good night. I'll see you next time.